Clark, good morning, Michaela.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. A number of events are taking place in Donegal to mark the 25th anniversary of the Omagh bomb. Buncrana students Sean McLaughlin, James Barker and Oran Doherty, as well as two members of a Spanish exchange group who were staying in Inishowen, were among the 29 people who were killed on August the 15th, 1998. This evening, a massive remembrance will take place at the Oratory in Buncrana at 6 o'clock. Tomorrow on the anniversary, meanwhile, a rosary is being held in Knockalla Drive at 3 o'clock. Well, a memorial service was held in Omagh yesterday. West Tyrone MLA Daniel McCrossan says families deserve the truth.
I want to see the families of this town. I want to see the people of this area get to the truth as to what happened. You know, why people were sent towards the bomb on that day. Why there has been no one brought to justice from the IRA for murdering so many innocent people on that terrible day.
Top bosses in the HSE will be asked to justify their high salaries when they appear before the Oireachtas Public Accounts Committee. One HSE employee earned almost €1 million last year, while 8 staff were paid between €500,000 and €980,000 during 2022. The government's accounting watchdog recently expressed concern over the high rates of pay earned by certain HSE executives. Member of the Public Accounts Committee, Deputy Alan Dillon, says the huge salaries send out the wrong signals to nurses and the like who are struggling to pay their bills.
We cannot ignore the fact that some employees are earning close to €1 million, while others are struggling with much lower incomes. So it is really important as a committee to ensure that this process is transparent and accountable, and that the remuneration of high earners is in line with the organisation's values.
An attack on a businessman in Derry following the Apprentice Boys Parade in the city on Saturday has been described as deeply shocking. Police say they received a report of an assault in the Spencer Road area shortly before 6 o'clock. They're appealing to anyone who witnessed the incident to come forward as inquiries continue. Foyle MLA Sinead McLaughlin has condemned the attack. She says there's no such cause for such a totally unacceptable and violent act. There's been a 13% decrease in the number of motoring offences in the Derry City and Strabane district area. According to latest figures, a total of 3,224 offences were recorded last year, representing 522 less offences than the previous year. In 2022, there were 24 incidents of careless driving, 25 drink or drug driving, 21 mobile phone use offences and 29 speeding. CompareNI.com found that overall the number of driving offences on NI roads has fallen by 9%. Finally, for weather, sunny spells and scattered showers today with highest temperatures of 17 or 18 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
As a woman, you know your body better than anyone. But when you're looking for answers, Irish Life Health now gives you access to GPs who are specialists in female health in areas like menstrual health, contraception, fertility and menopause. To find out more, search Irish Life Female Health. Female health consultation available on all hospital plans from September 1st, 2023. T's and C's apply. Irish Life Health DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, The 9 till Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning to you. 4 minutes past 9 on this Monday, the 14th of August. You're very welcome along to the 9 till Noon Show here on your #1 local radio station, Highland Radio. How are you all keeping? Missed you all. Had a lovely week off. Thanks very much to Donald Kavanagh for his expertise in sitting on. And just to let you know now that we are open for business this Monday morning. 07491 25,000 if you want to get involved in the show. 07491 25,000. 003537491 25,000 if you're calling from outside the Republic. Your WhatsApps and texts more than welcome to 086 60 25,000. Again, 00353 8660 25,000 if you're outside the Republic, and emails from anywhere to comments@highlandradio.com. I direct you towards Twitter, but I don't check them. But you can X or whatever they call it now. We'll pick them up there as well. All right, okay, let's have a run through the newspapers this Monday morning. Let's start with the Derry People Donegal News. Donegal had the highest rate of all alcohol-related hospitalizations in 2022, according to a stock new report. Findings by the Health Research Board reveals Donegal had the second highest rate per 100,000 of the population of alcohol-related psychiatric hospital admissions last year, followed by Sligo, Leitrim. Had the highest rate, so it's a northwest issue particularly. Donegal was also among the counties with the greatest number of cases, 467 cases in 2022, receiving treatment for alcohol as the main problem substance. In 2022, Donegal and Leitrim had the highest rate per 100,000 of the population for first admissions to psychiatric hospitals per units for alcohol-related diagnosis. The detail is contained in a new report by the Health Research Board. The report gives a county-level breakdown of alcohol profiles, which show alcohol-related liver disease rose across most counties in Ireland in the last 5 years. What is happening that it seems to be a particular problem here in Donegal and the Northwest more generally, both Sligo, Leitrim and Donegal featuring in the top three in those categories there. The Derry News this morning, their lead story is as follows. A woman who sadly died following a road traffic collision on the Colmore Road in Derry in the early hours of Sunday morning. A report was received at approximately 1 a.m. of a one-vehicle road traffic collision. PSNI officers attended the scene with colleagues from the Northern Ireland Ambulance Service, but sadly the woman in her 30s passed away at the scene. 3 other people were taken to hospital for treatment for their injuries there. On to the national newspapers now. Let's start with the Irish Independent. They have a story about the price of a pint set to increase from today. Publicans have warned that a 4-cent hike in the price of a pint from today, taken with an imminent VAT increase, threatens to prove a tipping point for the €2.5 billion Irish pub sector. Diageo will increase the price of its stout and beer products by 4 cents from today, just 6 months after a 12-cent hike in February. But Diageo obviously aren't too worried about it because it's their product that is driving people to the pubs. And I presume they feel that the sector can absorb another 4 cents, or else they wouldn't shoot themselves in the foot, would they? However, reading on, the 4-cent hike, when taken with tax and other costs, result in the price of a pint rising by up to 10 cents. Politicians warned that the combination of the beer price hike, the imminent jump in VAT from 9 cents to 13.5%, and ongoing inflationary costs now threaten to hit the industry hard. So is that enough? Or maybe you've stopped socialising already, or is this further increase enough to make you stop going? I think it depends where you are in the country, because I think a pint around here, about $5.50, is it? But if you go down to Dublin, or for example, you can pay €6, €7, €8 for a pint. So it could be a tipping point there. Maybe it's more affordable here, or maybe you feel that enough is enough and you're not going to go into the pub. What do you think? 086 60 25,000. Vintners Federation of Ireland Cork branch official Michael O'Donovan said the beer price hike could not have been more badly timed. My concern, he said, is that when you take everything together, it threatens to represent a tipping point for the sector. And there does come a tipping point, and it's interesting to see that phrase used. It's one we've used on this programme previously, because in terms of cost, eventually there does come that point where people change their habits. A couple of stories about learner drivers in the papers today. Let's look at the one in the Irish Times. And I wonder, has this been your experience? Driving testers who were nitpicking. I'll start that again. Out of practice, forgive me. Driving testers who were nitpicking, and another who reacted poorly to a learner driver forgetting where they parked their car before the test were among complaints received by the Road Safety Authority in recent months. In one case, a person sitting their driving test later complained that their examiner had scolded them for whizzing past cars, despite the fact that they were travelling at the speed limit. Maybe they're going a little bit close to the cars. In another complaint, a learner driver said after they cut out 3 times during a hill start, the tester proceeded to then shout at them to work the clutch, while that made them cry. The learner driver said when they returned to the test centre, the examiner said, "So obviously you failed." One person complained that before testing Finglas, Dublin, the tester made a big deal of the learner driver forgetting where they'd parked their car. Are people getting very soft that they spoke to me and made me cry, and they were angry because they didn't like where I parked my car. Well, the learner driver said while the theory portion of the test went well, things began to go downhill when they left the test centre to start the drive. When we stepped outside, the examiner asked me where my car was parked. Due to my nervousness, I forgot the exact location of my car, they wrote. The person said their tester said that was a bad start to the test. I don't know. I was expecting... I didn't read all of that article. I read the headline and I was expecting it to sort of be, really shocking stuff, but it seems it's just people maybe being a little bit oversensitive. I don't know. Have you had any experiences like that? Let us know. 086 60 25,000. 086 60 25,000. Good morning to Michael and Lisa, who are joining us to watch the live stream today. A reminder for you that we do stream the show in its entirety. You can watch most of our guests and all of me, from the waist up, by going to our social media, YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland, or on our Facebook, Highland Hub, Highland News and Sport, and where else? On Twitter also as well. What do you think about this story in the Irish Daily Mail today? A Garda Síochána has been criticised for its strict dress code after 3 cadets were sent home from its training college for having tattoos amid a recruitment crisis in the force. Now, is this something that would bother you? I mean, in this day and age, lots of people have tattoos. I don't know, do they have the same... they never really had with me, but some people would have maybe turned their nose up a little bit of tattoos or thought it reflected on a person's character. That did exist, if it doesn't still do with some. Does it really matter if a Garda has tattoos? Now, maybe face tattoos can look quite intimidating. I don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I think they possibly do. But should we really be sending trainees home from Garda College because they have tattoos? Well, as Commissioner Drew Harris desperately struggles to meet his recruitment targets, a situation involving a number of trainees at the Garda Training College in Templemore, County Tipperary, has sparked a new debate on the force's outdated views on tattoos. At least 3 Garda hopefuls who had begun their studies at the start of this month were sent home after it was discovered they had ink designs on their lower arms which would be visible if they were wearing short-sleeved uniforms. The trainees were among 175 recruits who arrived at Templemore for induction on July 31st. So do you think that's going too far? Is that OTT? Now, maybe on the lower portion of the arm. Does it depend on what the tattoo depicts? I'm not sure. It's not necessarily what was on the arm that the reason they were sent home. But in this day and age, do you think that's unreasonable? 086 60 25,000. 086 60 25,000. I mean, sometimes nowadays, not having a tattoo is almost what might make you stand out. But anyway, 3 Gardaí sent home. Don't know what they're going to do about that now. Tattoo removal, is that easy? I don't know. Don't have a tattoo just currently anyway. The Irish Daily Star. Justice Minister Helen McEntee must fix Dublin's street crime crisis or quit, a leading councillor has warned. Now, before I read on here, I understand Dublin is a big place, it's an important place, and it's awful to see any violence. But we are seeing violence, and on the Community Garda information on the news here, you will hear regularly of serious assaults. There was one in Ardra recently. There's been assaults in Letterkenny. There was a couple of assaults in Inishowen. It happens on a regular basis. And I wonder if people who are the victims of these assaults, especially if the perpetrators aren't found, are wondering, what's going on here? This is in Donegal. It's in every county of the country. But there seems to be this notion that because a tourist was assaulted and it's terrible, it should never happen, that all of a sudden this is a new problem, that this is something that is a disgrace and you need to put 1 million Gardaí on the streets of Dublin. I don't think it really talks to the overall issue that we do have of assaults right across the country, not least here in Donegal as well. And I think the story is kind of happening in a summer vacuum, as if, if you stop tourists getting assaulted, that fixed the problem. And unfortunately, because of the reactionary nature of the Garda, lots and lots of resources are being sent to Dublin to fix this problem that's in the papers and on the news. When really, we got 1 extra guard up here in Donegal recently. There is a problem here. And I just feel for those who've been the victims of assault in the recent past here, who feel like maybe they're being forgotten somewhere in this whole conversation. If you think that's a point, or if you think I'm as far out as that light has, let me know. 086 60 25,000. Well, following on from these comments from the councillor, He said the minister who is totally responsible for An Garda Síochána should either resign or come up with a robust plan, Mannix Flynn told The Star. And in a hard-hitting interview, the veteran councillor also said he believes Gardaí on the ground are not being allowed to take on street gangs because their bosses are more interested in statistics and the Garda computer system Pulse. They're not being allowed to do their job. They're not being managed to within an inch, they are being managed to within an inch of their lives, he claimed about Gardaí. But as I say, I don't think that's a proper conversation if you're just talking about a couple of instances in Dublin. The RTE story back in the papers today. RTE was last night told to clean up its act as a matter of urgency if it wants to retain public trust and confidence. The warning came from Sinn Féin TD Imelda Munster as a member of both the Dáil Public Accounts and Media Committees. She said the fact RTE dropped €3.7 million in TV licence fees in 6 weeks after the Ryan Tubridy pay scandal should set alarm bells ringing within Montrose and the government. But she also expressed disappointment at the failure of new Director General Kevin Backhurst to provide Oireachtas committee investigating the station with certain documents they needed. She fumed, it is just not good enough to say we can have these documents in the autumn. Autumn could mean the end of September or October. There should be no excuse in my mind for these important documents not to be provided to us by the time the Dáil returns. And where are the reports? There is a lull in this story because there are a couple of reports that people are maybe given a bit of space to be concluded. But the public should get to see them. The Dáil rep should get to see them. And I think not paying your TV licence is kind of addictive. And I think if lots of people, as they are seeing many people not do it, they're going to go, well, why should I do it? And I think, on reflection, and I have no real gripe with Ryan Tubridy. I didn't really like his presentation of the Late Late Show, but that's just as a viewer. It's nothing personal. So when I say I think his return to radio is a problem for RTE because they talk about trying to remove a culture, and unfortunately Ryan Tubridy will always be the poster boy of that culture. Even now it seems he hasn't paid back that overpay yet to RTE. So people are sort of saying, well, if he's holding on to that money, why shouldn't I hold on to my money? We talked about this before, but no harm mentioning it again because it seems become an increasingly a problem. I'm not sure it's an issue at the moment here in the Northwest, but let me know if it is. But families could face delays of over a week to buried loved ones in future due to a shortage of priests. It comes following a recent admission from the Bishop of Galway on Clonfert, Michael Dignam, predicting that over the next decade there'll be just 20 priests to serve over 40 parishes in the Galway diocese alone. There's a great work ongoing, by the way, in this part of the world to predict where the church is going and how it will manage. We spoke to one of the people behind that recently. We might get that person back on again, actually, to see how that is progressing. But anyway, according to Father Declan McInerney, parish priest of Clonfert, the reduction in priests across the county, this is Galway, will impact on all services provided by the clergy. Father McInerney said the demands on the reduced number of clergy in the diocese are huge and it may impact on certain ceremonies taking place, and we all know what they might be. But as I say, I'm not sure if we're seeing those delays here at the moment, but unless something is done, it feels almost inevitable. Okay, just a reminder for you one more time of those numbers that ring in your ears, and I'm sorry, but people tune into the show for the first time all the time, and we want everyone involved in the programme. 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and texts, so call 074 91 25,000. Good morning, everyone.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the C-Store National Large Forecourt of the Year for 2022.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Hi, I'm Mark Moriarty and I'm passionate about Irish beef. From a juicy fillet to a perfectly marbled ribeye or some versatile mince, it's as good as it gets. But just knowing it's Irish is not enough. I want to know exactly where it's from. So I love that all M&S beef is fully traceable back to the farm and even the animal. That means high welfare standards from M&S Select Farms with a quality you can trust. Delicious and full of flavour. Because this is not just beef, this is M&S Irish beef.
Enjoy all the thrills of Cullen's Funfair at Letterkenny Retail Park behind TK Maxx. Saturday the 12th until Sunday the 20th of August. 2 great ways to pay. Buy 20 tokens, get 5 free, or pay as you go. Open weeknights 6 p.m. till late, weekends 2:30 p.m. until late. And Wednesday the 16th of August, Carnival Crazy Night. All rides reduced from 6 p.m. until late.
We're sorry to inform you of yet another delay. No, not the train this time, it's John. He's delayed getting his eyes tested. If he's accidentally sat in your lap, knocked over your suitcase, or kissed you instead of his wife, we can only apologise. John has now been informed that eye tests and glasses from the €69 range at Specsavers are free with PRSI or medical card, so there's no need to delay booking an appointment. Find out more at specsavers.ie. John, can you get off my lap?
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
The time's 9:20. Jim's on with us. Hi, Jim. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I think if you have a radio on in the background, you might need to turn it down, Jim, because it might become distracting with the echo.
Yeah, there's no radio.
No, it's just an echo. Okay. Anyway, Jim, you're frustrated enough, perhaps, without me adding to it. You have appealed. You've appealed to people planning a road trip in their mobile home. What's your appeal to them?
Yeah, recently I've noticed quite an increase in mobile homes coming around the area. I stay near Traina Bay, northwest Donegal, down below Dunlow. And don't get me wrong, I think it's great to have all these visitors coming. The Wild Atlantic Way is getting lots of publicity and attracting a lot of people, and that's great. I love to meet them myself. But I'm quite concerned. Recently, I was saying to Caroline there that in May, I was up in the northwest of Scotland, and it's become a real big problem there. Big mobile homes, not camper vans, many of which aren't really much wider than a normal car, but these big mobile homes are causing lots of traffic jams. It's been a problem in the Isle of Skye for quite a long time. Lochaber area, it was chock-a-block in May, and I've noticed outside my front window quite a few really big ones, and I've encountered 3 of them in the last 2 weeks where I had to do really difficult reversing and squeezing to get out their way. And it's just a little bit of a worry because I think it's going to become quite a big issue.
I've got 2 words that I think are the root cause of all of these problems, Jim.
Yeah.
Google Maps. I think people are following Google Maps and they're sending them up narrow roads. I think they've got a segment for cycling, a segment for walking and driving. I think they should have a little tab that if you're towing a caravan, because I think people blindly now follow their sat-navs and it's sending them up the shortest route, which is not really suitable for towing a trailer. That's just my guess at it, because I'll tell you, if I say, for instance, I would travel back and forwards from Downings, and you can see the instant regret on people towing a caravan as Google Maps sends them up over Loch Salt. It's just a road really not suitable for it. I think that's the problem. What do you think, Jim? Have you any other theories?
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I would say that's, well, we'll never actually know, but I would say that would be more than half the problem. I didn't get jammed the other day there, but I noticed coming down the caravan road, which, if you know, Dunlow, there was a caravan getting pulled by a car, obviously, but also a mobile home. And these guys came down that funny wee single-track road. And I thought, why are you coming down there when, Dunlow is further up the road? I'm sure they get diverted off that way. But I think there's more to it than that. I think the attraction of the Wild Atlantic Way, which is fabulous, like I said, people are coming up that way and they're thinking, I think I want to get down a wee bit nearer the waterside. I think I'll head on down this way and I'll head on down that way. Now, for example, if you were in the Dunlow area and you wanted to go to Mahary, the road's not too bad out to Mahary. I would say it's pretty okay. Big trucks go up and down it. But if you went beyond Mahary up to the mountain road, as I call it, to Falcarab, that's... My wife would never even drive that in an ordinary car. So I think maybe, a bit of signage at tactical points by the council saying not suitable for large mobile homes would help a wee bit. The Wild Atlantic Way themselves could put up signs. It's a combination. And, some people are smart, some people are good drivers. Most people think they're really good drivers that actually think they're better than they are, jump in a big mobile home and charge about. And it's just, like I said earlier, I've seen it becoming a real problem in other parts of the countryside, in other parts of countries. And I think it could be a real difficult thing here. Also, there is quite a lot of people living in Donegal. It's quite a dense population, although it's rural. Up in the northwest of Scotland, there's a fraction of the people, so there isn't a number of cars going about. You don't get tractors with guys trying to go on with their work. I noticed on the website there, a lot of people were talking about tractors, which is silly because tractors are tractors. It's a farming community and they've got to go on with their life and you just live with that. That's fine. But, like I said, the roads, they're very tight. And about 2 years ago, I myself actually pulled a car, not a mobile home because I couldn't, but I pulled a car out of a ditch down at the bottom of the road here because the guy went down the wrong way, reversed into a ditch, and he was completely stuck. Yeah. You get a lot of nasty big ditches here, and that could be catastrophic.
Yeah, so some discreet signing then might be the way forward, and I don't think anyone fancies backing a caravan half a kilometre down a road either. Backing it into your little space at the campsite's problematic enough for some. Do you think caravans are getting bigger? There's some lovely trailers on the road at the moment. That's perhaps not helping.
Yeah, I haven't really seen that many caravans about. It's more like these big mobile homes. Caravans are quite complicated. It's more the big mobile homes. I think the guys renting the mobile homes, they could maybe do a wee bit of work. They could maybe, provide some more clear information to folk who are renting them. That wouldn't solve the problem of the people that own their own ones and come over. But there's more of them coming. It could be quite serious at some point if a road gets totally jammed and there's an incident,
Yeah. Okay. All right. As you say, it's just a little bit of common sense, perhaps, and a little bit of signage. And also, where it is the problem, don't follow the old sat-nav blindly either. Jim, lovely to chat to you. Thank you very much indeed. Take care of yourself. That is Jim there. Do you agree, disagree, or have anything to add? 086 60 25,000. I want to mention that Father Sean Doherty, formerly of this parish, newly ordained, of course, is celebrating the Vigil Mass of Solemnity of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary in St. Eunan's Cathedral tonight. It's at 7 p.m. Father Sean will impart his first blessing to all present, and refreshments will be provided. Car parking will be available. Hugh Duffy Car Park. It's opposite Skolmorrigan Small. Cathedral car parks by 2. Car park behind the cathedral. A warm welcome extended to all. So happy to mention that. That is tonight, just to recap, in St. Eunan's Cathedral at 7 p.m. All right, back with our next guest shortly.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Oreo the robot is not just helping staff with service at Kelly's Diner, but he's also adding a little twist to birthdays there. If you're celebrating your birthday at Kelly's, Oreo can be persuaded to sing a very special happy birthday. It's a great treat for small kids and plenty of big kids too. For the chance to see and hear Oreo the robot in action, visit Kelly's award-winning diner today at Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
With the largest selection of pre-owned vehicles in the Northwest, check out imotors.ie. We have it all. Starter cars, family cars, and even a bit of luxury, all available to drive away. All cars come serviced and with warranty. Check out imotors.ie.
Attention all home and business owners. Are you looking for the best value for money when it comes to plumbing and tile solutions? At McDade's Bathroom Plumbing and Tiles, our experienced staff are ready to provide top quality services and products that meet your needs and exceed your expectations. Our focus is on providing expert advice and top quality products. McDade's Bathroom Plumbing and Tiles showroom in Buncrana is dedicated to delivering great value for your money. Visit our showroom today.
Did you know there are more places than ever to top up your TFI Leap card? Well, now you do. You can buy and top up TFI Leap cards in over 2,500 agents, including all post offices. You can also top up your TFI Leap card with the Leap Top Up app on iPhone and Android. And remember, young adult and student leap cards can only be ordered online. To download the app and find your nearest agent, go to leapcard.ie.
Now, just before we welcome our next guest onto the show, just to let you know that coming up after 11, our regular feature, Monday Focus, this week we focus on the 25th anniversary of the devastating Omagh bomb, and we have a number of guests lined up to reflect on that moment, that if you were an adult of or alive at a certain age, you will remember where you were. You will remember... you just, have vivid memories of it, is really what I'm trying to say. And if you wish to share those, you can join in that conversation as well. So maybe you were in the area at the time or it impacted you in some way or other. Feel free to share. As I say, our Monday Focus will be on the 25th anniversary of the Omagh bomb. You know the contact details if you want to, as I say, impart anything. I don't want to lead. I just want to leave it open to you. Driving instructor listening in from London, good morning to you. Many years ago, when you were taking your test in Donegal, if you did something wrong while doing your test, they automatically failed you and told you to make your way back to the depot there. And then my friend asked the examiner what he did wrong. So he pulled over, put the examiner out of the car, and he had to walk back. It was a time before mobile phones. Things have changed after that. I wonder how that panned out. If you're listening and you put that examiner out of the car all those years ago, did you eventually pass your test, I wonder? Anyway, back to more modern times. Katrina joins us now. How are you getting on, Katrina?
Not too bad, Greg. How are you?
I'm okay. Now, you did your test in Donegal recently. What was your experience?
So it was my second time doing the test, and had plenty of lessons, plenty of experience. And on the morning of the test, away up the road I went, and thought I got on very, very well. And I was very aware that I was kept out a way long time. And I was like, geez, the traffic wasn't even bad, or there was none of that carry on. And came back, and he says, well, sorry, Katrina, but you failed. And I was like, on what? And he was like, silly things like, coasting, using the clutch too much. They kept me driving for 47 minutes. And I rebooked my test straight away then. And the next time I done it, I passed with flying colours.
Did you request a different tester, or was it the same tester?
No, I requested a different tester.
You'd spent enough time with the first one.
Yeah, I kind of did. I don't know, at my driving at that stage, I had plenty of lessons done with the instructor that I'd done my lessons with. And he was like, Trina, I see no reason why this will not happen today. And I was like, and it was a significant day. It was my wee boy's birthday. So I was like, imagine I'll pass my test on my wee boy's birthday and all happy out up the road. And I mean, Greg, the disappointment, oh my God, I was so disappointed because I knew I'd done the work. I knew, but he literally just kept me out until I made enough blue marks. And there's three. And just so people understand, it's an accumulative situation, isn't it, Katrina? So, if you make a minor error, there's a mark there and a mark if you do it again. But you're saying the amount of time you were out, you surpassed the fail rate. So you're allowed 12 blue marks, pink ones. I'm not sure. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's 12 pink and so many blue, but you're allowed no red. But that was my story. And then I rebooked the test and went to the same area, but just asked for a different tester. And I had a lovely gentleman tested me. And I said to him, I was like, I'm a wee bit nervous. And he's like, listen, I'm not here to fail you. The only person that's going to fail you is you.
Right.
And I was like, that's actually quite nice to say, because it's true. And I went down to do my questions till I was finished with my test was 26 minutes.
Wow.
And I didn't even hear him tell me that I passed because I stalled. And I was like, damn it. But he says, well done, Katrina, you passed. I didn't hear him. And I put my head in my hand, and he was like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, I failed. And he went, oh, you passed. And I jumped off the chair. I nearly came across the table to him. And he was like, no, settle for a handshake. And he was so nice. And he was like, so I explained to him what had happened previous, and he said that the tester the person that was there previous to him had been moved on.
Right.
That he was just failing everybody.
Which impacts. It's a huge impact. We had someone in the house recently that sat their test and passed it first time. Thankfully, it's a nervous time because for everyone, the person and everyone around them, because it means so much, particularly in a rural area. Your freedom, your ability to get to and from work, drop kids off and on. But anyway, you got your wee child their birthday present. It was just a little late, isn't that it?
Yeah, it was. And do you know what? Like, I'm recently I'm a few years living where I am now, but where I lived previous, I didn't need to drive. So I was quite late on learning to drive, and I have no qualms saying this. I passed my test at 41.
Well done.
So, I didn't give up. I just kept going.
And it's made some difference since, I would say.
Oh, well, it definitely is. Like, we have 2 children here, and one of our wee boys has autism and a lot of appointments, and you need to drive.
Yeah.
And I needed to drive, so that was what made me drive.
Yeah, that was your drive to drive, I get you. Okay, well, listen, it's great to hear you're on the road with your full licence, and it just goes to show, you just wonder what the first person's motivation was, you know what I mean, to keep you out so long and what have you. Your second experience, so much more different. Okay, well, all's well that ends well, although you're out of pocket and time,
Greg.
that being said, so that's not
I
insignificant.
know, but anyway, it's money well spent. I have my licence now, and it's so important to have it, and you just put it behind you now. I didn't give up. I wasn't going to give up. He was not going to beat me.
No.
And
I got
it.
in the end. All right. Well, listen, well done. All's well, as I say, that ends well. Well done, Katrina. Happy motoring. Safe motoring to you and yours.
Thank you,
Take
Greg.
care. Bye-bye. Lovely to chat to you.
Bye.
Congratulations to Clonmany Festival on a great week. Some crowds at it. From a Clonmany listener, they say Clonmany Street is hard to beat. Yeah, I'm sure it is. I've never been to the Clonmany Festival. I think it comes often after the Mary from Dunlow Festival and other festivals, and I just be not exhausted, that's ridiculous, but partied out. That's an exaggeration, but it just doesn't suit. But I'd love to go maybe next year. Hi, Greg. Time the Garda were back on the beat in Letterkenny. Never mind Dublin. People fighting in shopping centres with knives. No 10 million given out to Donegal. It's pathetic. And that's why I want the broader conversation, because all of the Garda resources to keep the media quiet is going to be focused on the Dublin problem. And that is, I think, doing the rest of the country a disservice where there are issues as well. I find it difficult to understand why so much emphasis is put on the media of how much alcoholics are in the Northwest, but no survey done on why the RTE saga has disappeared off the airwaves. Well, it hasn't disappeared off the airwaves. I mentioned it just today. What element of it do you think needs to be explored more? Because I think you might be a regular texter on that issue, and I'd be really interested in what part of it do you feel is is off the radar, or what should be talked about currently that isn't being talked about. In one local bar, can I say Maggie's Bar? Can't I? It's $4.80 for a pint. That's all right, isn't it? Okay, that's exactly what we're going to talk about now, because I do believe that there is still good value in pubs in the Northwest for the most part. I mean, obviously there's going to be outliers. If you're down visiting Dublin, if you're in Temple Bar or what have you, you're going to be paying €7 or €8 or even €9 at times for a pint. It's different up here, ranging probably from $4.80 to $6 or under $6.5.80. I don't know, but all the while the prices are increasing, and we've talked about a tipping point on costs on this show before, and it's been referenced in the papers again today that are we getting to a tipping point in terms of the cost of a pint and whether people will go out or not. Councillor Martin Harley owns Harley's Cheers in the Ballabufey, but is also treasurer of the Vintners Association of Ireland in Donegal, and he's on the show now. Good morning, Martin. Thank you very much for joining us.
Morning, Greg.
Right, okay. I mean, do you think it is important to sort of point out the different prices in different parts of the country? I mean, obviously, there's pressures all around, but I think there is still better value, isn't there, outside of the capital and maybe up in other urban areas in the price of a pint?
Oh, there is definitely. In like most parts of west of Ireland, you'll still get a pint of Guinness for say under $5.50, and most of them. Whereas if you go into the capital, you're looking at average of $6.50, as you see, up to maybe €9 in Temple Bar, which is crazy, like for tourists into the country, because that's the message they go back with to their own countries with, and it's putting people off coming to Ireland. So, and I know from so many years ago when price of drink was a lot cheaper, and I mind being over in Liverpool one time, and I mind talking to a man there, and he said, I'd love to go to Ireland. He says, but he says Dublin's too expensive. He says, I can't afford to go. And that's maybe 15, 20 years ago. So, but there's still, with the increase imminent, with the as you open up their prices again now for a second time this year, it's a difficult time for business, and what will happen, I feel.
Yeah, because up here, Martin, just to set the scene, if you don't mind, you still have the huge costs to show sports. You still have the big insurance costs. You've still got staff costs, and you have less of a footfall. So whilst the price of a pint is less up here, you do face, and the rates and all that kind of stuff, you do face many of the charges that the other pubs that we're talking of do, that are charging big money. So it's all relative, isn't it? There is a tipping point for business. So Diageo have already put it up 12 cents. They're going to put it up another 4. What do you think the impact of that might be?
Well, if you say the overheads are the same whether you're in Dublin or in Donegal, and with oil costs going up there lately again, and the ESB costs, not to mention the price of Sky TV, because people come in to watch a football match. The minimum price for Sky in a pub is almost around $700 a month, which is it's almost up at 9,000 per year, and that's just for. And it's okay. You might get an odd big game that you get a crowd in for, but overall, I mean, you're not going to really, no disrespect to the Brentford or Wolves, but if you have Brentford and Wolves playing, you're not going to have too many in your bar watching it.
No.
And you're still paying this. I mean, that's the problem, you see. So it is going to be difficult. What really is happening is driving people into off licenses. I feel, and people are drinking home, which is not a healthy environment to be in either. I think it's more when people are able to go out and enjoy the night out and get the experience of the Irish scene and meet people and talk to people. I think it's very important for.
Well, we saw statistics today showing the level of issues caused by alcohol is very high in Donegal, Leitrim and Sligo, and much of that probably, as you say, is being bought in off licences. But I mean, bars are having to change then how they do business when they open, how many days they open, because there was a time your weekend trade would perhaps mean you could open for the regulars all week, but those days for a lot of pubs are gone now. That opening hours and what have you for some are changing.
Oh, they're changing, yeah. And we made that decision a number of years ago, and at the time people said, "Oh, it looks very bad. You closed a few days a week." And I said, "Well, to keep your overheads down and keep your staffing levels at a type we had for your margins, you had to do it." And what I've seen now as the years have gone by, more pubs have come to me and said, "You made the right decision at the time," and a lot of them are doing the same now. And you see now where pubs are, they're Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is not good, because if you've people coming, like say a town like Ballybofey or Letterkenny, where people coming stay in hotels during the week, that they have nowhere to go. Then they have to stay in the hotels. Where part of the experience was going out around the pubs and maybe a bit of music on some of the places. So something has to change there.
Do you think there are many pubs around the county now? Because we've seen a huge reduction in the amount of pubs and a huge increase in the amount of off licenses. And the reason that's relevant is because, if I'm not mistaken, pub licenses can be transferred to off licenses. So you could argue if you see a new off license pop up, it could be down to the fact that a pub somewhere else is closed. But anyway, do you think many more pubs across the county or across the region are on the brink of closure now, or are they making the changes you've made to say sustainable?
Some of them have made these changes, and unfortunately, this is going to push them over the edge. That's what I feel. I feel there'll be more. Okay, a lot of them might stay. You won't see it imminent, but I would think once you take the first and come into the 1st of January 24, you'll see a lot more people making that decision. So it'll be over the next 6 to 9 months that you'll see the change, and you'll see a lot more premises closed. So it's sad to see it, and that's, but unfortunately that's the decisions. It used to be a saying that a yard of a bar was as good as a farm of land. But I'll tell you this much: neither two industries are doing very well at the moment. So I don't know what for the future for the Irish publicans is bleak at the moment.
Well, what do you think one of the solutions might be? Maybe decoupling this 9% argument from hotels, so that maybe pubs and restaurants are treated differently to give them some sort of an advantage. Could that be a help or a solution? Well, it wouldn't be a solution because it would only maintain the status quo for those in certain sectors. But what do you see? What would you like to see the government do to back business here then?
Well, some kind of suppose they brought in incentives during COVID. Suppose they give a lot of support to publicans, and I feel that something like that needs to happen again. There needs to be some support put in place that to encourage the pubs to stay open, because it's not just the publicans, it's the staff that's going to lose jobs as well. So job losses. And to me, it doesn't make sense for the government to drive more people onto the unemployment register.
All right, okay.
So to support the publicans, to me, that keeps the jobs in those places for the people in place. So that's important.
Yeah, okay. Before I let you go, I saw some amazing pictures and videos from the Twin Towns yesterday. Hugely successful colour run, is that what it's called, Martin? Sorry to switch subjects, but it was seemed such a wonderful and positive day. I didn't want to let you go without mentioning it. Yeah, we had a fantastic day. We started the colour run in Twin Towns in 2017 in memory of our daughter Kim, who lost her life in 2014. And really what it is, we started as just a family fun day, and that's what it's been. And yesterday was such a great success. Unfortunately we lost with none 20, 21 and 22, so it was great to get it back up and running again yesterday. And it was a hugely successful day. Over 500 people. Brilliant. Done. It's more a walk than a run, but plenty That's
of
just yourself.
Kids loved it. Yeah, that's just me. But now the kids had a great day, and it was such
some brilliant images. And I'm sure for you and yours, it's a whole mixture of emotions as well. But it must be lovely to see the fun and the delight on other people's faces, and great to see it's so well supported.
Yeah, and Kim would have loved that, and that's the important thing.
Isn't that what it's all
and
about?
It's really. I talked to a few people last night as well, and they had lost children as well in the past. And I said to them, this is for all the kids that we've all lost, and that's the important thing. It may be in Kim's name, but it's for everyone. So everybody can get a bit of fun. So that's the important thing.
All right, Martin. Listen, thanks very much for that. Okay. I appreciate you commenting on both. That's Councillor Martin Harley there.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from 40,000 to 600,000 euro with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102 127.
Free GP care is now available for children aged 6 and 7. This means all children aged under 8 can get a GP visit card. If your child already has a valid GP visit card, the HSE will extend the card automatically. To find out more or to register your child for free under 8s GP care, go to hse.ie/GP visit cards. Registration is open now, an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
Is your car in need of a service? At iMotors, with our state-of-the-art workshop facilities, we offer servicing, timing belts, tyres and wheel alignment. Split your service bill over 4 payments with our bumper payment facility. Visit imotors.ie to book in or call us today.
If you need advice on what's best for coughs or colds, or what's best for sore throats or flu, just ask at your local Brennan's pharmacy. If you need advice on the best vitamins and tonics to put a pep in your step, just ask at your local Brennan's pharmacy. Whether it's about backaches, headaches or tummy aches, your Brennan's pharmacy team can help. If you need advice from someone you trust, we're here for you at your local Brennan's pharmacy, Buncrana, Clonmany and Creeslow.
All right, good morning to Anna, John, Beth, Michael, Rosemary, Margaret, all of you, Audrey, Lisa, Tanya, watching our show live across social media. Mary Jo commented, not paying your TV licence will not fix the RTE issue, I'm afraid. It will only come back on the lower class people. I'm not really sure how that might work, but I understand your point of view. So as you would know, it's gone back a long time now since we discussed the issue or raised the issue or tried to raise the issue of the impact artificial intelligence will have on education. I mean, it's going to have impacts on all of our lives, but particularly in using ChatGPT in its early stages, it was clear to me that particularly in the area of education, it's going to create a particular problem. And I said at that time that the Department of Education, or whichever department is relevant, it's relevant to, needs to be on top of this because it's coming. Well, now we read that third level students are facing the prospect of more oral exams as colleges grapple with the threat posed to academic standards by artificial intelligence platforms such as ChatGPT. The possibility of a return to greater use of in-person written exams with less reliance on continuous assessment has also been mooted in one university. Well, Brian Mooney's a regular guest on this show and he's accepted our invite again. He's a guidance counsellor, an Irish Times education columnist. Good morning to you, Brian.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, is this something, I mean, it's inevitable that this is a concern. Do you think the solutions being discussed here are the only way forward, really?
Well, look, Greg, I mean, technology changes all the time and how we all research content changes all the time. But ultimately what colleges and everything from, literally the school system, the whole way up, is trying to assess is students' own ability to actually analyse content, to be able to present content in a way that shows that they understand the topic. And obviously with platforms, AI platforms, ChatGPT, as you mentioned, it becomes less and less easy to be able to assess students' own input. And this is a perennial problem. Now, obviously, there are certain disciplines that I'm aware that, oral exams where students will sit in front of a panel of lecturers and be asked a whole range of issues to actually show that they're complete competence. The area of medical and paramedical is quite popular, but having the resources to be able to do that would be enormously difficult. Returning to the exam hall where the student is sitting there having to write the exam in front of you, obviously that bypasses any benefit they could get from ChatGPT. But it is a huge problem because effectively, AI is part of all our lives and it's going to become more and more prevalent as we go forward. So obviously we need to be able to educate students in a way that they are able to integrate it effectively into their own. It's not that we don't want students using it. It's a question of how can we assess the student's own individual content, and it is a problem. And the article by Catherine Donnelly in today's Indo is quite good. She has comprehensively covered how all of the universities are looking at this, and it is a real issue.
Yeah, what about, we'll get to we'll start off with the resources then. Let's just say they did go ahead with more, in-person stuff, more oral exams. Like, are the resources there to actually do that en masse? I can't imagine they are.
They aren't. That's the problem, Greg. That, at the end of the day, we've seen how over the last number of years the pupil-teacher ratio at third level has increased substantially. And effectively, there is huge pressure from within the academic community, and quite rightly so, that standards would be maintained and we would return to the staffing levels that we would have had only maybe 10, 15 years ago. And that's only bringing us back to what we had. The capacity to get 3 members of staff with a competence in an area, or 2 or whatever, to sit in front of, a series of students, interviewing them for a half an hour or an hour or whatever, to ensure that the depth of understanding they would have of a topic. Now, in areas like medicine and veterinary, it's quite useful because you do want your doctor to actually really know, and not just to cover that area of the content that, they needed to get through an exam. So, yes, it is important and it is used, but as you say, how do we provide the resources to be able to actually staff that kind of intense one-to-one stuff of individual interviews, as quite apart from bringing people back into exam halls with a pen and setting them a written paper and seeing what they actually know.
Yeah, because, I mean, I presume it's always happened, cut and pasting, plagiarism and what have you, which is easy to spot, particularly in its current incarnation. Or, ChatGPT can write stuff that's very hard. It'll pick from different sources that would be very hard to sort of flag as plagiarism or created by someone other than the person that's presenting it.
And the problem then, Greg, is
Brian.
For a lot of universities, their own staff wouldn't be up to speed with this.
Precisely,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
People who've been there 10, 15, 20, 30 years who may have, studied themselves in a different generation. So there's a huge task of work within the third level sector to be able to educate staff to be able to recognise this in their daily interaction with student content.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, you have to bring them up to that level of understanding. Two, there's also, as we said earlier, that using AI effectively is actually a benefit in the sense that when it's done legitimately and when you teach students research skills, obviously they're going to be able to use those in their own lives. So it's not that we don't want to be able to educate students in how to effectively use AI. It's a question of doing it where it's transparent, where you can see where the students' own creativity, own analytical skills have been used, so that you can give students credit for the development of those skills.
Yes, now the problem doesn't... Sorry, I was going to say, Brian, the problem doesn't start at third level. I understand this is an article focusing on that. At what point do we start discussing seriously people that are qualifying with points to certain courses that have lent on AI in the second level or even the first level? Do you know what I mean? Like, this is a problem I think we need to start from the bottom
correct,
up.
Greg, because over the last number of years, particularly at second level, where new curriculum have been developed, part of that has been, where continuous assessment processes have been used, where students now can get 20% or 40% of the actual grade in a Leaving Cert subject for material that is submitted. Now it is assessed by external examiners in many cases, but effectively we are moving to try and balance the assessment process, in our school system, away from just having a terminal exam, sitting with a pen in an exam hall for 3 hours. But the minute you do that, and the minute you allow students to submit work generated at home, that is then submitted in school and then passed on for assessment, we have the exact same problem that you talked about.
And the thing is, finally, Brian, we don't need all students to be doing this for it to be a problem. A cohort of students, a 10%, 5%, I don't know what the level might be, who are successfully doing it, skew the system, take spaces that they don't necessarily haven't, or even if they're then getting lax, if they're even really intelligent, how do you undo a year of cheating, if you know what I mean? So it doesn't take an awful lot of students to start employing AI to skew the system, is the point I was trying to make there.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But it raises the issue. Again, I think it's back to how do we educate the education system, the teaching force at every level, to be able to understand what students are capable of doing on an ongoing basis as AI develops, and then enable them to be able to use their own skills to ensure that fairness is maintained across the board, as you say, because even if it's only 5 or 10% using it illegally or in a way that's hidden, then obviously it skews the entire system. So this is going to be an ongoing problem. I think, Greg, we will be talking about this into our old age. I really do.
Okay, Brian, listen, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I look forward to our chats.
Thanks for being Greg. Good morning.
Take care. Brian Mooney, guidance counsellor and Irish Times education columnist. Get your texts and comments in whilst we listen to the news and obituary notices. 086 60 25,000 or call us on 074 91 25,000, and keep your comments going if you're watching the show as well.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Big Band Country Nights continue at Logues of Cranford this Tuesday with Jerry Guthrie and his band. That's another Big Band Country Night this Tuesday with Jerry Guthrie at Logues of Cranford, where you'll also find music in the Wee Bar on Saturdays and old-time dancing on Sunday night.
Get getting married. Men's wedding suit packages are now 20% off. Book before August 31st. Evolve Clothing, Letterkenny Retail Park. Terms and conditions apply.
Free! Students in primary and special schools will get all the books, workbooks and copies that they need for free when they go back to school this year. Primary schools have received funding to buy the books, workbooks and copies for every child, so there's no need for families to buy or to pay a fee for these.
Free primary school books, an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
The best businesses never stop beginning. So whether you're starting or growing your business, we want to make it easier for you. At Bank of Ireland, our faster, easier online loan applications help your business take the next step. Search Bank of Ireland Business Loans. Bank of Ireland. Begin. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Over 18s only. Bank of Ireland is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. The families of the Omagh victims say they've spent the last 25 years looking for answers. Tomorrow marks the anniversary of the single worst atrocity of the Troubles, killing 29 people and injuring over 200 more. Buncrana students Sean McLaughlin, James Barker and Oran Doherty, as well as two members of a Spanish exchange group who were staying in Inishowen, were among those who died on August the 15th, 1998. No one has ever been convicted and questions remain about whether police could have prevented the attack. In February, the UK government announced a full public inquiry into the matter. Michael Gallagher's son Aidan was killed in the bombing. He wants the Irish government to play its part in the investigation.
Both Helen McAtee and the Taoiseach gave us a guarantee that they will cooperate, and even on the day the Secretary of State announced the public inquiry, I'm not sure if it was the Taoiseach or the Taoiseach was actually in Belfast, and he said that the Irish government would not be found wanting.
A number of events are taking place in Donegal to mark the 25th anniversary of the Omagh bomb. This evening, a Mass of Remembrance will take place at the Oratory in Buncrana at 6 o'clock. Tomorrow, on the anniversary, a rosary is being held in Knockalla Drive at 3 o'clock. Meanwhile, a memorial service was held in Omagh yesterday. Top bosses in the HSE will be asked to justify their high salaries when they appear before the Oireachtas Public Accounts Committee. One HSE employee earned almost €1 million last year, while 8 staff were paid between €500,000 and €980,000 during 2022. The government's accounting watchdog recently expressed concern over the high rates of pay earned by certain HSE executives. Member of the Public Accounts Committee, Deputy Alan Dillon, says the huge salaries sent out the wrong signals to nurses and the like who are struggling to pay their bills.
We cannot ignore the fact that some employees are earning close to €1 million, while others are struggling with much lower incomes. So it is really important as a committee to ensure that this process is transparent and accountable, and that the remuneration of high earners is in line with the organisation's values.
An attack on a businessman in Derry following the Apprentice Boys Parade in the city on Saturday has been described as deeply shocking. Police say they received a report of an assault in the Spencer Road area shortly before 6 o'clock on Saturday evening. They're appealing to anyone who witnessed the incident to come forward as inquiries continue. Foyle MLA Sinead McLaughlin has condemned the attack. She says there is no cause for such a totally unacceptable and violent act. The price of a pint goes up again from today. Diageo is increasing the cost of its stout and beer products by 4 cents after a hike of 12 cents in February. It will affect drinks like Guinness, Smithwick's, Rockshore, Harp, Hophouse 13 and Carlsberg. Business costs are being cited as the reason for the increase, but the Vintners Federation of Ireland has said the price rise is poorly timed and deeply unfair to both consumers and publicans. Treasurer of the Vintners Federation of Ireland in Donegal, Councillor Martin Harley, says the price hikes are resulting in a change in drinking habits.
It is going to be difficult. What really is happening is driving people into off license. I feel people are drinking home, which is not a healthy environment to be in either. I think it's more when people are able to go out and enjoy the night out and get the experience of the Irish scene and meet people and talk to people.
2,200 homes and businesses in South Donegal are to receive fibre broadband. Ciro has announced that Bundoran and Ballyshannon are the latest towns in the county to benefit from full fibre broadband rollout. Works to deliver high-speed, future-proofed connectivity are due to be completed by autumn. Ciro has already connected almost 20,000 premises across Donegal, including in Ballybuffet, Buncrana, Letterkenny and Donegal Town. There's been a 13% decrease in the number of motoring offences committed in the Derry City and Strabane district area. According to latest figures, a total of 3,224 offences were recorded last year, representing 522 less offences than the previous year. In 2022, there were 24 incidents of careless driving, 25 drink or drug driving, 21 mobile phone use offences and 29 speeding. CompareNI.com found that overall the number of driving offences in Northern Irish roads has fallen by 9%. Weather now, sunny spells and scattered showers today. Highest temperatures of 17 or 18 degrees with moderate northwest breezes. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning. The obituary notices for this Monday morning, August the 14th. The death has taken place of Una McLaughlin, late of Ocht Chur Muff, Donegal. You're welcome to pay your respects at McLaughlin's funeral home Dungiven, County Derry, this evening from 5 o'clock until 9 o'clock. Leaving the funeral home at 9 o'clock to repose at his parents' home, 11 Carnabean Road, Dungiven. Funeral from his parents' home on Wednesday morning, leaving at 10:15 for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass in St Joseph's Church at Banagher. Interment immediately afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations if wished in lieu to the Kevin Bell Repatriation Trust, care of McLaughlin Funeral Directors, Dungiven. The death has taken place of James McFadden, 14 Chestnut Grove, Ramelton. Remains will repose at his home from 1 o'clock this afternoon. Funeral Mass on Wednesday morning at 11 o'clock in St Mary's Church, Ramelton. Burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family time on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only. Donations if desired to the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland, care of any family member. The death has occurred of Bridie O'Donnell, née McNamee, Dundee, St Johnston, County Donegal. Bridget's remains are reposing at her home. Funeral leaving her late residence, Dundee, St Johnston, tomorrow morning at 9:30, going to St Beathan's Church, St Johnston, for 10 o'clock Requiem Mass, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of desire to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or Kelly's Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of Breda McGinley, Main Street, Dunfanaghy. Wake is taking place at her home. Funeral Mass in Holy Cross Church, Dunfanaghy, tomorrow at 12 noon, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Mass can be viewed live on mcnmedia.tv. Family time from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu to the Lake House Comfort Fund, care of any family member or James Harkin, Funeral Director. The death has taken place of Michael McDade, 7 St Orns Road, Buncrana. Remains are reposing at his home. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:20, going to St Mary's Church, Cockhill, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only. Donations if desired to SRU, Convent Road, Carndonagh. Family time until 2 o'clock this afternoon, and again from 10 o'clock tonight until the morning of the funeral. Funeral can be viewed online at churchservices.tv. The death has taken place of John Farn, Ballyhillion, Mallinhead. Remains reposing at his home. Funeral from there this morning at 10:30, going to the Star of the Sea Church, Mallinhead, for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock, with interment afterwards in Lag Cemetery, Malin. And the death has occurred of Elizabeth O'Hagan, Lil, Key Road, Dunlow. Her remains will be reposing in McGlynn's funeral home this afternoon from 2 o'clock, with removal at 6:15, going to St Cronus Church, Dunlow, for 6:30, where she will repose overnight. Funeral Mass tomorrow at 12 noon, with interment afterwards in Mahary Cemetery. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Fuel your day the Happy Pear way. With bursts of wholesome goodness in every bite, the Happy Pear's Granola Crunch range makes snacking irresistibly delicious and nutritious. Perfect for breakfast on the go, that mid-morning slump or afternoon pick-me-up. Find your new favourite snack in selected Super Value and Centra stores and get ready to crunch.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Good morning if you are just joining us. You missed an interesting first hour. If I do say so myself, I thought it was quite a busy one too. 086 60 25,000. The WhatsApp and text line remains open for you. Thank you so much to all of you using it. A caller says if you are on minimum wages, you can just about to afford 2 pints per hour. That's the big issue with pubs now. People can't afford to drink, and there is the tipping point for some. Can't understand why pubs are charging €4 and €5 for a bottle of zero beer. Surely, if somebody's driving people to a pub for a drink, the driver shouldn't have to pay €5 for a bottle of non-alcohol. It's crazy. I hope people stop going to pubs. Well, I'm not really sure how much it costs them or how much profit they're making on it, but I think a lot of people who drink are actually just drinking that now if they choose not to drink on a night out. So they could be losing revenue there. How can the government back the pub business in this county when the news headlines today show the abuse of alcohol highest in the country? Well, then, if you wanted to have that debate, and maybe, you see, this is what we don't do, is a debate enough on real issues that we have control over. You could argue that maybe post-COVID, that people have changed their drinking habits, that they are drinking at home, whereby you pour yourself a drink, and it's not a single, it's not a double, it could be a treble, or maybe you've got into a habit of opening 1 or 2 bottles of wine a night that maybe normally you reserved for one night out in the pub. So we also have to talk about how we're consuming alcohol and how that might have changed and how that might be influencing other figures. Ask Brian, does ChatGPT reference the sources like is required for any third level paper assignment? Very important. No, you simply in ChatGPT you give it the better the description, the better the output. You tell it what you want to write. It could be a homily, could be a poem, it could be a song, it could be anything, and you give it some pointers as to what it's about, what emotions or what points you're trying to express or get along. Or get across, and it'll do it for you. And there is some software that can pick out if ChatGPT has been used, but it's evolving all of the time. It's not the only one. Facebook, Twitter, X, and others are also developing theirs. Google, Microsoft. It's going to be harder and harder for technology to pick out what is artificially created and what is not, and there's certainly no reference. But I understand what you're saying. I believe it. You have to sort of, if you do quote stuff, you have to put markers in, but maybe you can also instruct ChatGPT to do that for you as well. So if using quotes, please, and so on and so forth. It is that intelligent and it's instant. Hi, Greg. Was very nervous going for the driving test. Someone gave me a tablet that's used to calm Parkinson's person. Well, I went and the tablet put me, could hardly talk, could hardly answer. I felt, well, firstly, never take a tablet off someone and take it. I hope, well, I presume this was some time ago, but there's just nothing good about that situation. I'm sorry. There's just no out from that other than don't ever. That's just not advisable at all. Good morning. Just wondering, is it mandatory for healthcare staff in nursing homes to continue getting the COVID vaccine, or can it be the person's choice? I've heard of no compulsion in terms of the vaccine or any new boosters or what have you. If anyone out there in that sector has any insight into that, let us know. I don't think there's any appetite for it or any desire to implement it either, but I could be wrong. If you work in that area, please let us know. I love all animals is in the Bible. Do not harm them or deprive them of happiness or work against God's will. I do not agree with the public being told not to feed the seagulls. Nature is so lovely and the birds is all we have left and we need to look after it. Yeah, I suppose there is a thing, though, that you have to be careful that you're not interrupting nature or interfering with nature and feeding seagulls and altering their usual flight and eating habits and drawing them to a different location. Maybe that's not God's will either. I don't know. Just to remind you, by the way, that on the show on Friday, if you were listening, and I'm sure you were, €2,500 was given away. It was the first tranche of cash as part of Highland Radio's mega summer cash draw. Well, there's much more. Another $2,500 on Friday, another $2,500 after that, and then 10th and another, and then 10 grand. Anyway. There's 20 grand in total up for grabs. 2.5 already been given away. You can buy a ticket now at Highland for Highland Radio's Mega Summer Draw. You'll have a number of chances to win, of course. Every Friday from the 11th of August to the 1st of September, we're giving away 2.5 grand, and that's not all. On the final Friday on this show, we'll be drawing a ticket. One of you who buys a ticket will win €10,000. So if you want to be in with a chance, go to highlandradio.com. Click on the draw link and answer a simple question, and then tune in every Friday to find out if you're a winner. The earlier you buy your tickets, the more draws you're in. That's the rub, isn't it? And tickets are a tenner, but the more you buy, the cheaper they get. So you can group in with other people, buy them yourselves. But please only do it for fun. And if it's well within your means, of course. And the thing about this competition, because there's others running all the time, and some of the tickets are really quite expensive, is the amount of people that enter and your chances of winning. So I'm not promising that you are going to win, but I'm saying it's about scale. So you could you're in with a good chance, better chance than perhaps other ways you could be putting your money. All right, let us take a break for the bingo numbers. We will be right back thereafter.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Monday the 14th of August. You're playing on the green sheet. The reference number is S1. It's game number 33. The numbers are 57, 68, 12, 26, 10, 75, 9, 30, 65, and finally 1. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Get a great Clarence gift this week from McGee's Chemist in Letterkenny. Buy 2 Clarence skincare products, one to be moisturiser or serum, and you'll get a choice of 3 treat-sized essentials from a selection of 10. Which 3 will you choose? This great Clarence offer is available while stocks last, in-store at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny and online at mcgees.ie, where the best costs less. For any skincare advice, call in and talk to the resident skincare consultants, Mary or Gemma.
Curtains at Foy & Company, Letterkenny. Complete any room with our elegant and exquisite range of curtains designed to elevate your windows with sheer beauty. Whether you prefer classic patterns or contemporary designs, our curtain collection offers endless possibilities to complement your interior decor. Let our expert staff assist you in creating the living space you've always dreamed of. Call in and get a free interior design consultation this month at Foy & Company, Letterkenny.
Donegal Suffolk sheep breeders are holding their premier sale of ram lambs, shearling rams and females. The sale takes place at Rafo Mart on Friday, August 18th. Judging starts at 6 p.m, sale at 7 p.m.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate holiday loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
17 minutes past 10. Active Retirement Ireland says 94% of its members would like to see the establishment of an independent commission for ageing and older people. The finding is among the results of a member consultation in March and April of this year, for which 437 people took part. Now, Maureen Kavanagh is CEO of Active Retirement and joins us on the programme now. Good morning to you, Maureen.
Good morning.
It is great to have you on the show. Now, Active Retirement is calling for an independent commission for ageing and older people. That's been backed up by its members. And speaking to older people, and we've talked about this on the show before, and we shall in the future, there is a sense older people are feeling left behind, underrepresented, a problem, no planning for them. Now, doesn't matter what age anyone is listening today, they eventually, God willing, will become the older people that we are talking about. Is that what your organisation feels?
Yes, our members across the country, and we have 450 active retirement associations all over the country. And our members do feel left behind. They feel that they're not listened to. They feel quite concerned that there is no plan in place for anybody as we all get older. And for many years, we have worked with the government and will continue to do with the Minister for Older People. But even that position, the Minister for Older People, is a Minister for State or a junior minister. And also it's a joint role. It's Minister for Older People and Mental Health. So we really do need ageing and population ageing to be taken very seriously. We are now calling for a commissioner on ageing and older people. We've seen that position works well in Northern Ireland, in Wales, the UK. And it's an independent voice, and it's someone that could call the government to, bring them to task over plans or lack of plans for ageing. Now, population ageing, we know it's a worldwide problem, but Ireland isn't there. We're not in a crisis. We're certainly not, and our population cohorts of generations show that. But we do need to have a plan in place. And in 2013, the government developed a really, really good national positive aging strategy, but it was never implemented. So it still sits there with no plan and no framework for implementation. And we do know, and our members talk about their experiences of being older in this country. So it's really, really important, we feel, as an organisation representing over 20,000 older people, that there be a plan in place for ageing.
Now, I mean, obviously, we could talk about the obvious ones we have, for an example, in terms of maybe rural transport or access to it, the move away from cash, health, obvious ones that we talk about all the time. But I think a perfect current example is in 2023, we know that more older people now are living in rental accommodation. And we know the housing market in this country is changing. Home ownership, like our parents and grandparents maybe enjoyed, is not necessarily for this and future generations. So a commissioner for ageing and older people would need to start looking now about how and where older people live. Because once you retire, we know the pressures on the pensions, for an example, you aren't going to be able to sustain high rents. So that's a problem then that would fall on the government's lap. So if we were serious about looking after older people and planning for the future, that would be a really important conversation right now and an important topic for an independent commissioner for ageing and older people. So in the absence of something like that happening, then we can't seriously say we are looking to the future in any meaningful way.
No, you're right. And there is no plan and there is no strategy in place for how Ireland becomes a good place to grow old in. There is, as I said, the 2013 strategy covered all the areas, every single area, and the determinants of what we need to grow old well. But it sits unimplemented and there is no framework. So if you're an older person, there is no singular plan in place. Equally for us as we get older ourselves and for many generations to come. And you're right, everybody hopes obviously to get older and we want to get old well and we want to keep active and we want to live in our communities. So this is the sort of plan that needs to be put in place to cover all of these areas. And we are going to be facing a crisis in the future of people going into their 60s and 70s in rental accommodation. That there isn't any doubt about that. And that cohort of people are becoming very, very vulnerable. And we have people in their 50s and early 60s now who are very, very frightened about what the future is going to hold for them because there isn't a plan in place for housing. There isn't a strategy in place that will protect people to age well in Ireland.
Yeah, and there are different options in terms of housing as well. Because there's an awful lot of people don't necessarily want to be in a 4 or 5 bedroomed house either, that they would be open to other options, but we're not really discussing it, I think, in a grown-up way or in a serious way. So how important is it then for have a standalone person? Like, what's the difference, say, for instance, an independent commissioner and an ombudsman? We know, say, for instance, the ombudsman for children is very active and has really quite strong powers. So why are you going for an independent commissioner over an ombudsman, for an example?
Well, we had to look at both roles, and there is a place for both roles as well. There is a place for a commissioner and an ombudsman, but in terms of having a singular ask, and we consulted with older people, and we looked at the role in Wales, and we looked at the role in Northern Ireland, and found that if it's well resourced and it's set up properly, and these in Wales, it's set up under the 2006 Act, so it's placed within legislation. So we felt that a commissioner would be possibly as a starting place to be the best position to go for, to have that independence, to have that voice, and to be that champion for all of us as we age.
It seems a lot of these calls are falling on deaf ears. Do you think, and I appreciate the approach you're taking today, Maureen, but do you think it's time the likes of Active Ireland start rallying the troops to some extent? We've seen the influence older people can have when they're organised and you know, they get out into the streets, so to speak. Now, I'm not saying we're at that point yet, but, you know, do you think we are getting to a point whereby the older person's voice needs to be heard more strongly, which is all of our voices? Again, I don't want to separate older people out from the rest of the population because, you know, it is, as I say, if we're lucky, ahead of us all. But do you think we need to sort of start pushing this to the front of the agenda as we approach an election? Because the nicely approach doesn't seem to be working too well.
No, and look, Active Retirement Ireland has put in its pre-budget submission to the government on various different areas like the pension and on the call for the commissioner. But what we will be doing is we will be supporting older people to use their voice in the upcoming local elections and in the general elections when they come to the fore in the next year or so. And we will have a plan in place on how you can use your voice, write to your local TDs, ask questions on the doorstep. And that's how we will work in empowering older people to use their voice. But it is very, very difficult. It is. But older people still vote. So we will be actually rallying the troops in that way.
Yeah, because what upsets me, and I will go to the obvious one of health, if that's okay, is that sometimes it upsets me that older people sort of give in to it, if you know what I mean. They go, well, I'm not going to go to that facility because I'm not confident I'll get A, B or C, you know. And so rather than getting... and maybe that's why we have to advocate on their behalf where necessary, rather than sort of saying, right, enough is enough. You know, people are almost waving the white flag and going, there's no point trying to get a GP's appointment, or there's no point. I don't want to sit for 14 hours in the ED, which is very saddening. I find that very saddening.
Look, all of us are faced with those issues when we have, when we try to get medical attention for ourselves and making that up our minds. Do you actually go into A&E knowing that the system is not working properly in there, and it's not the staffing, it is the system that is wrong.
Sure.
And it is a concern. So again, the more than housing, health is an area that impacts on all of us. But as we get older, we have, you know, generally we do tend to need good health facilities more. So that's another area that needs to be challenged and really addressed. So many areas of government policy need to be addressed that include health, that include retirement, that include pensions, incomes, transport. And these are the same areas that impact on everyone. So it is in all our interests to make sure we have good plans and strategies.
That's so true. And, you know, we do need to, I think, sometimes lose the them and us attitude whereby, oh, well, I haven't been in hospital for 10 years, so that doesn't bother me. Or, you know, I've got a job, so certain rates don't affect me. We do need to sort of start thinking more, I think, as a society rather than sections of it. Okay, well, listen, we hope your calls do not fall on deaf ears, and we do really appreciate your time today. Have a lovely day, Maureen. Take care of yourself. Okay, that is Maureen Kavanagh, CEO of Active Retirement. If you've got a view on that, 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or give us a call on 074 91 25,000. A lot of interest on a new documentary featuring a final interview with Jerry Conlon before his death. showed his anger that the British government had locked away files on the wrongful imprisonment of the Guildford Four. Mr. Conlon, who died from cancer in 2014 at the age of 60, gave a final interview for a documentary on the Guildford Four, Birmingham 6 and the Maguire 7. He said a number of those involved in sending innocent people to prison had been promoted to the highest echelons of the British state by the then Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. The human rights campaigner from Belfast also said those who had watched as the Guildford Four were tortured and convicted without evidence had been protected. No investigation has ever taken place. He told that RTE documentary In the Name of Jerry Conlon, which will be aired tonight on RTE1. And the reason I mention that is I know there'll be a lot of people out there with a lot of interest in that. That is tonight on RTE Television 1. Its name, or In the Name of Jerry Conlon. Right, back to some more of your comments here. Question out there: with some tablets and brands scarce and chemists giving out different brands, companies, especially blood pressure tablets, is this safe? Heard of people this doesn't work for. They need the original tablets. Well, normally a GP will make that call, because we've talked about this and I can say it with a degree of confidence. A GP, often what happens is the pharmacist will contact the GP or send the customer back to the GP and say tablet A is not available. Is tablet B, C or D suitable for them? It's not ideal, but I certainly don't think, or I know that the for certain medicines at least, that the pharmacists aren't just going, oh, we don't have that, here's this. Hi Greg, had a baby bat in the house this morning, got it out but don't know what to do with it. Would anyone know anything about this? So what can you do with a baby bat? It flew into the house, maybe it'll find its way, I don't know. What do you do with it? Is it just sitting there? What's the right thing for that person to do with that baby bat? Myself and my wife were in a hotel on Saturday when we ordered our drinks, only be told they don't do a dash anymore. So a small bottle of white lemonade was €2.80. When I said, you'd done the dash last week, he said it's a new policy. Now, no more dash. We have had one drink and then we left, went to a pub where they gave us a dash and no charge, plus our drinks were €3.26 cheaper. Hotels, in this caller's opinion, are a rip-off. They also go on to say a taxi around town used to be €5. How is it $4.80 once you sit in the car? Then by the time you reach your destination, it's now $9.50. Rip-off Ireland is in full swing. I have a bit of sympathy for the taxi workers, to be honest with you, because they are faced with huge charges and it's tough to get around big towns too. The days of a €5 fare are over, of course. But yeah, that hotel potentially shooting itself in the foot by not doing the dash, because the two customers dashed to the pub next door and saved some money on the booze there as well. All right, okay, we're going to be talking about Garda, or potential trainee Garda, effectively being sent home from Garda training because they've got tats. Should they have been?
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today. Big Band Country Nights continue at Logues of Cranford this Tuesday with Jerry Guthrie and his band. That's another Big Band Country Night this Tuesday with Jerry Guthrie at Logues of Cranford, where you'll also find music in the Wee Bar on Saturdays and old-time dancing on Sunday night.
Have you heard about Charlie's chips? They're made from potatoes that are carefully selected, then peeled, cut, and like everything else at Charlie's in Letterkenny, cooked to order. That's why they taste so good. From 12 right through to 8 in the evening, Charlie's at Pierce Road, Letterkenny offer an extensive menu that includes a great selection of gluten-free options, all available to sit in or take away. The next time the hunger hits, pull into Charlie's.
There's bingo every Monday night at Halfway House Bingo Burnfoot. Doors open at 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €1,300 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
Have you heard about the McElhinney's M Card? Now available exclusively in store. Sign up today to start earning and redeem once you hit £500. Register in-store at our M-Card station on the first floor or at any till point. The M-Card, the new way to save at McElhenny's.
See the smash hit film come to life. Dirty Dancing returns to Derry's Millennium Forum 19th to 23rd of September. Exploding with heart-pounding music, breathtaking emotion and sensationally sexy dancing. Featuring hit songs Hungry Eyes, Hey Baby and The Time of My Life. Tickets from millenniumforum.co.uk.
Right, so a number of young trainee, well, I don't know what age they were, but a number of trainee Gardaí starting their basic training at the Garda College in County Tipperary haven't gotten very far after falling foul of rules against tattoos. They were sent home to get them removed and can reapply when this is done. They shouldn't be visible, we're told. Christy Galligan's a former Garda sergeant, joins us now. Christy, how are you getting on?
Good, not too bad. Greg, how are you?
Good to have you on. Right, this is a bit harsh in this day and age. There's lots of people with tattoos. Do you think the Guards, given the crisis, need to relax their views?
Yeah, it seems a bit harsh, all right. Even though it's in the code that no tats to be seen by serving members. The problem with that is the tattoo does not make the man out of the woman. A trainee is a trainee, and I know in the Garda code and the dress code anyway that tattoos are not to be shown, and you have to have a certain short hairstyles, etc., etc. We're talking about modernisation and the new policing model and everything else. There's been a lot of controversy over the numerous and myriad of issues in the Garda Síochána. This is just adding on to it and the frustration that people find. Now, you don't want somebody with coming in with maybe a love tattoo on his four knuckles in the left hand and hate on the right hand, something like that. Wouldn't be permissible. But I have an issue, though. See, many years ago, when I was in the job, we had long sleeve shirts. And the long sleeve shirts covered a multitude of things. I'm sure there were members who were serving at that time who had tattoos, who came from the armed forces, either Navy or from the Army, who would have had tattoos, and they were covered by long sleeve shirts. Now with the new Garda dress that they have, or uniform that they have, is all short sleeved. And I'm sure there are serving members at the present moment out there who have tattoos that are showing on their arms or forearms. And what do you do about them? So it will be seen as a fairly discriminatory type of thing to put in place against young trainees when they are looking for young trainees. There are so many trainees or so many people that we need in the force at the present moment, and to discriminate maybe it will be seen as it seems a little bit harsh.
It might also be a little out of touch, because what is the public's perception now of tattoos? I would find it hard to believe that there's anyone listening to this show that neither doesn't have a tattoo themselves, or their children have one, or grandchildren, dependent on their age. And in the booklet on Garda Síochána uniform and dress code, it says, in order to retain a professional image, all other tattoos and body art must be covered while on duty. They say that tattoos and body art on the face, which I kind of get, or visible above the collar, are not permitted. But I mean, is that in touch with what the public think? It seems to be saying they're doing it for the public, but it seems, I don't know. See, I don't know the answer to that question.
The difficulty here is, I mean, if anybody watches any series on television, I'm sure people do, in relation to UK policing or American policing or anything else, you will see guys with tattoos fairly well dotted along their forearms and arms, and even going on to part of their hands. It doesn't stop them from being good police personnel. It's who they are. It's part of their dress code, I suppose. It's part of who they are. And it is the part of who people are nowadays to get tattoos. So I don't think taking in a policy like this, it's so strict. I wouldn't agree with it being anywhere on the face or above the collar of the neck. I think, yes, on the forearm and arms, yes, there is not a problem. I wouldn't find it a problem as long as it's respectable. But I don't think that bringing in something like this is doing any favours for the job, in a part when they're talking about modernisation in the Garda Síochána.
But the reality is too, Christy, it probably won't change until someone is sent home and they challenge that decision because their tattoos are for cultural or religious reasons. And then all of a sudden there'll be this big panic not to offend anyone, and the rules will change. Why don't they be proactive before that happens and just say, look it, this is of bygone times. It's rarer now to get someone, it seems, without a tattoo.
I agree with you totally, Greg, and I agree with your statements totally. I think at the end of the day, it's another issue that can and could be challenged. When we talk about a lot of the equality issues within public service or even private service, we're talking about equality issues. Are we going to discriminate against people who have tattoos on their arms when they're looking for a job in a public service? Is Garda Síochána the only ones now who discriminate against people with tattoos? It's a backward step in some ways when we're talking about modernising a police force. And I think we need to look at that again. And I think, with all of the issues that are happening, the myriad of issues that are occurring in the Garda Síochána in relation to rosters, resignations, people walking out. And I heard recently of a case where a trainee in Templemore who came in with his man bun was asked to, sorry, there is a regulation, short haircut, walked out again. I mean, do we need to be that overly strict when we are looking for recruitment, good recruits, people who are willing to put their lives on the line for us and who are out there to protect our safety, to introduce these very, discriminatory type practices?
I don't know. If I was in Bother and I'm dialing for the guards, I'm not going to be too worried if they've got an anchor on their forearm, to be honest with you. What do you think about this current conversation about policing, in that you would swear that Ireland was the most peaceful country in the world, and all of a sudden tourists are being targeted violently in the capital? I can't believe, as I say, the coverage and the conversation seems to be happening in a vacuum. There are assaults, public order offences on the streets of our towns and villages right across the country. We got one guard from the recent batch of newly qualified Gardaí. We need to be having a national conversation about public order and assaults and stop pretending it's a couple of tourists, and I wish them full recovery, in Dublin, that all of a sudden this is the problem. Because what's going to happen is Drew Harris is going to throw all his resources to keep the media off his back at a problem in Dublin, and it's not really telling the story of what's going on in this country, I don't think.
Well, actually, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was writing a piece this morning for the press in relation to that, the very thing that you're speaking about now, Greg. And I agree with you in that respect that, throwing a 10 million into an overtime bill just for a short period of time to fill a gap is a sticking plaster in a wound, pardon the pun. But, there are assaults in every town and every village. Well, not in every village, but every major town and urban area all over the country most week and primarily most weekends. We don't have the frontline patrols that we should have, and dedicated frontline patrols that we've always seen and probably taken for granted for years in this state. And the fact is, I've looked at a number of CSO surveys there in relation to assaults, and not just Dublin. And unfortunately, the focus is primarily in Dublin. It's not just Dublin, but it's the rest of the state as well.
But we have a reactionary. We seem to have a Garda commissioner that is driven by headlines rather than, say, for instance, there was an awful situation in Letterkenny recently. A couple of instances. We had an assault in Ardra. We had a vicious murder in South Donegal. If we were to follow the pattern of what's happening in Dublin now, there's an extra 8 Gardaí in Ardra, there's an extra 25 Gardaí in Letterkenny, there should be an extra 30 guards around. That's not how it works, that's not how you police, but that's what's exactly happening in Dublin. There's been 2 assaults, which it's quiet time, so the press are all over. Very serious assaults, and this is no disrespect to those that were assaulted, and it has to be cracked down on. And now we have millions upon millions of euro being thrown at this problem in Dublin. And that's not a good use of resources. And I think the public need to say, hold on a second now, you're trying to pull the wool over our eyes here.
Absolutely, and I agree with you totally. This is only a sticking plaster over an emerging wound, and it's getting bigger all the time. And it's, you're sticking your hose in a dam that's about to burst. At the present moment, and it is, the figures come out in relation to the number of the guards versus a pro rata per population or per county, as have been shown recently, and it's not a true reflection of the actual resources that are needed on the ground.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, so I'm going to ask that question now. Donegal, 4th or 5th highest amount of Gardaí per head of population. Where are they? Why do people feel that there is a shortage of guards on the ground in Donegal when, according to those stats, we're in the top 5 counties per head of population in the country?
Yeah.
Where are these? Is it because we're so geographically spread? Is it because they're on desk duty? Where are these guards? What's going on there? Because the perception on the ground doesn't seem to align itself with those stats.
The big problem here is and I've seen it, and I'm speaking to serving members all the time, Greg, and they're telling me one of the things is the bureaucratic, the mess or quagmire that they're left in at the present moment in time. They're sitting in front of a pulse system, uploading all the time, every incident that occurs. There is members who are now assigned to specialist units. The extra specialist units that have been mandated by this commissioner and the government has taken frontline uniform members off the street and put them into those specialist units. So therefore we're down huge numbers of personnel already. I would love to know, actually, when they talk about 468 members in Donegal, it is disingenuous for the government or for the Minister for Justice or for the Garda Commissioner to suggest that at any one time you're going to have 468 guards patrolling this county at any one period of time. That is a lie, and it's one that has to be challenged. For every unit, like the units in Letterkenny or the units maybe Gadore or wherever, Glantis, you might have one sergeant and 2 guards. You might have, in this county, which has a population of 166,000 people, you might have 30, maybe 40, maybe maximum 50 uniform members covering a county of this size. This is a huge county with a border. It also has a huge coastline, a major fishing industry. It has a large rural population. So you're asking a small amount of resources at any one time and any period of 12-hour shifts to cover that. You know, it's about time the truth was told what the actual numbers are at any period.
Well, what is the number? So are you saying 40 or 50 active Gardaí across Donegal at any given time?
It could. I'm saying it could be. I'm not saying it is. It could be, because when they're talking about figures of the number of guards on duty at any period of time, they're including people who are in the offices. They may be including specialist units like scenes of crime who are going to scenes of crime. They're not talking about your actual front line on the patrol, on the beat members. Do you understand me? So you have to exclude all of those specialists, and even your community policing units who are not actively on patrol but are doing community policing work, if you know what I mean. If you exclude those, the numbers then are quite minimum that are actually on patrol. And that's not just for Donegal County. That's for every other county around the country as well. So let's get the reality. What needs to be known is how many actual members are actually on patrol and a 12-hour shift each day. If that was known, people would be scratching their heads. And I think there needs to be answers.
Okay, well, who answers those? There seems to be the knives out for Helen McEntee. Now, I don't know. She doesn't seem to be a darling of the press, but the knives seem to be out for her. Is that justified, or is it should the Garda Commissioner?
Maybe to some degree. I mean, yeah, well, I mean, Greg, photo shoots are not reality. Photo shoots are photo shoots. If you're walking down the street with senior officers on Garda Síochána down Dublin Street after assaults, it doesn't do. What it tells the public is, this is primarily a photo shoot. It has nothing to do with actual policing itself. And it's 15 minutes of fame or 15 seconds of fame or whatever you want to call it. What we need to do, and it's not just at Helen McEntee. There's a policing authority as well who are constantly interviewing commissioners, etc., over policing structures, and etc., and management. And what are they doing? We have a commissioner who is surrounded by senior officers who I think have lost touch with policing. We were a proactive policing force involved in community consent. We're policing by consent for the community. We've lost a lot of that in the last number of years with this new policing model. We've lost it. We have brought in a policing model from abroad. And the policing model from abroad, be it America or even the UK, but America primarily, it's really governed by armed police forces. We're not an armed police force.
Of course, it's not the first time, because we also, say even with the ambulance service, we've employed a system for distributing the ambulance resources.
Yeah,
that is of no use. Maybe it is in an urban environment, but certainly not in a rural environment. Now we're seeing Garda calls being triaged in Galway, so we're losing that local knowledge. Yeah. Things are, what people, I think it's what the public feel. The public are very, very rarely wrong. The vast majority. Yeah. If you ask the vast majority of people, they feel that that sense that the Garda are there with them in the community, that have an understanding of it, that local knowledge. This is no disrespect to those that work in those areas, but they feel that is being downgraded. They feel less safe. That's not effective policing. And that's in this part of the world. And then, of course, now we've got all the attention over what's happening in Dublin, which, again, I think is distraction. It's distraction, really, from the real issue. So, in other words, you put 10 million in there, an extra guard in Dublin, and that fixed the problem with policing in this country. It's nonsense. It's ridiculous.
I agree with you totally. I mean, it's fill a gap for a short period of time.
It's a sticky plaster.
The problem.
All right, before I let you go, a caller says, what about facial tattoos? I would not like to see a Garda with facial tattoos. I think really there'd be a consensus of that is perhaps a bridge too far.
I wouldn't agree with that at all. No, no. Nothing above the collar, nothing on the face, nothing on the knuckles of the hands either. But I mean, tattoos in general on the arms or forearms, I wouldn't have a problem with.
Apparently, listener says you can also wear long-sleeved shirts as well. It's not just short sleeves, but listen, in the summer...
Yeah.
Well, if you can, why were these ones sent home then?
Well, that's a question you have to ask the hierarchy in Templemore and Garda headquarters. I mean, they introduced a lot of this stuff. A lot of it's fairly archaic and old stuff out of the old Garda guide, which was fairly strict at the time, and it really hasn't been updated, and it needs to be updated, to keep in touch with the times we're living in at the present day.
Thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate it. Christy Galligan there. Back with more after the break.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
2 for 1 at top attractions with Donegal Creameries and Connacht Gold Milk. Simply collect 30 tokens from special packs of Donegal Creameries and Connacht Gold Milk and receive 5 2 for 1 vouchers for over 120 top attractions nationwide, including golf and beauty. There's something for everyone. Start collecting tokens today.
We're sorry to inform you of yet another delay. No, not the train this time, it's John. He's delayed getting his eyes tested. If he's accidentally sat in your lap, knocked over your suitcase, or kissed you instead of his wife, we can only apologise. John has now been informed that eye tests and glasses from the €69 range at Specsavers are free with PRSI or medical card, so there's no need to delay booking an appointment. Find out more at specsavers.ie. John, can you get off my lap?
With the largest selection of pre-owned vehicles in the Northwest, check out imotors.ie. We have it all. Starter cars, family cars, and even a bit of luxury, all available to drive away. All cars come serviced and with warranty. Check out imotors.ie.
It's the Kildare Fair this Wednesday to Sunday at McCarry's Bar, Dunfanaghy. There's jiving with Aisling on Wednesday from 8 p.m. Enjoy Bingo Loco on Thursday, the Whistling Donkeys and One for the Road on Friday. Michael English followed by DJ Cooper on Saturday and Dan McCabe and the Danny Byrne Band on Sunday. The Kildare Fair this weekend. This ad is sponsored by Collision Assist, the Northwest's leading accident management and crash repair company.
Okay, if you've texted into the show, stay right where you are because we'll be getting to those as this morning wears on. Don't forget, after 11, our Monday focus will be remembering the terrible Omagh bombing 25 years on. We've a number of guests lined up. If you want to get involved in that conversation or share your memories of that time, please feel free to do so. We are joined on the programme now by Ciara McChrystal from Derry, who's fundraising for a new sports wheelchair. And this off the back of her selection for the Northern Ireland wheelchair basketball team. Ciara, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you keeping? It's great to have you with us. Right.
All good, how are you?
Great. Congratulations on your selection, by the way. Fantastic.
I've been selected, yes.
Oh, okay.
On the process of it.
Probably a long drawn out couple of months.
Well, hopefully someone's listening now and they'll feel they'll have to select you because I said so. Now, you're just 20... you're a young person, 28, but at 22, you were diagnosed with MS. A bolt out of the blue, I presume, was it?
Really out of the blue. They came in and they just said to me, "Oh, you're having another MS relapse." And I was like, "What?" Hang on. Where they thought I already knew. So, yeah, very out of the blue. I had symptoms and stuff, but I didn't link them to anything major, anything serious.
2 years later, then, you lost the ability to walk unaided for the most part, and that's when you became wheelchair bound, but continued very active.
Tried to be, yeah. I'm a scout leader up in Clergy in Derry, and I enjoyed like kayaking and horse riding and things like that. So I do try to keep as active as possible. And obviously, they've all been able to adapt all those bits and pieces for me in terms of off-roading things and special aids with horse riding and things like that. So I'm lucky enough.
Brilliant. But you got a particular love of wheelchair basketball. Tell us how that came about.
I messaged.
Sorry, you've muted there, Ciara. Someone might be calling you. That often happens. Sorry. You were telling us, Ciara, you were telling us about how you got your love of wheelchair basketball.
Yeah, I just messaged the local basketball team in Derry. The Northwest Wolves are there, and not a lot of people do know about them, to be honest. So I messaged them to see what way it all worked, if it was possible. And I went along to game day where all the local teams in the Northern Ireland League have all met, and I just watched it and I fell in love with it and gave it a go one day. And along that time, they were starting up a women's Northern Ireland team. So I thought I'd get on the extra training and try go there and bits and pieces, and it all just kind of snowballed.
Brilliant. And you were doing this in a second-hand chair, which wasn't designed for you. So that in itself created complications for you physically, didn't it? I mean, you were able to compete at a level, but because it was someone else's chair, effectively, it is not properly suited to you and the strains of that sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And it has caused some injuries in the past. I've got a few hand injuries and things like that, and sort of the sides of my legs and stuff are not sitting properly. So I just think now moving forward, because this new chair hopefully will do me a long time in basketball. I hope to be playing basketball for the next couple of years with the Wolves, the next sort of 10, 15 years at least. That this will be the chair now. But unfortunately, disabled sports creates a lot of complications. We can't just buy new trainers and whack away. So, the new chair will be measured to me and help me sort of be more comfortable whenever I am playing and stuff. The old chair was brilliant whenever it was fit for purpose. But now I do want to be in this sport long term. And I know that now. So it's time to take the training wheels off.
Yeah, it's okay. And that means that you are bidding, as you say, to make the Northern Ireland team. You've also got one eye on the next Commonwealth Games. And the old chair is not really up to scratch for that. So how can people back you, back your efforts and support you in buying this new chair? Because as you say, it's £6,500, so it's not cheap, and you're fundraising for that at the moment. So if people want to sort of have a stake, so to speak, in your future international career, how do they support you, Ciara?
It's been amazing so far, and I created a GoFundMe page. And it's shared on Facebook, on GoFundMe website and all the rest, and that's really propelled it. I've been so lucky. The people of the town and random people who I've never met before, I've never even heard of before, have decided to give me a wee bit of a chance, which is incredible, and donated to the GoFundMe. Some are anonymous, so some I'll never know who gave me that chance, and others you can put your name to it as well. So that I can sort of personally thank everybody as much as possible. But GoFundMe has really propelled it, and I've just been so lucky and so grateful. It's been a really, really humbling sort of experience to go through it all, to be honest.
Brilliant, and we'll share the link on our socials as well. And it's not only just for yourself too. There's definitely going to be a role in you showing others what's possible and inspiring others that might have a disability for a number of reasons. And I'm thinking particularly young people that would look at you and go, well, you know, I can see it, so I can be it. So there's a great piece of work you're doing in that regard too, Ciara.
Yeah, we've been so lucky. This year alone, the women's Northern Ireland squad have been the first in Northern Ireland to go over to England and compete and get a full team together. And it is just, and it's not just for disabled people. If you have a brother or sister who's disabled and you're able-bodied, you can come along and play as well. Anybody can sit in a wheelchair, and you don't have to be permanently in a wheelchair. And the Northwest Wolves are there to help and support everybody to get into the sport and to fall in love with it. So if it gives somebody a chance, I always think you never know what you're capable of until you give it a go. So it's all disability, all able-bodied, anything like that can come along to the Northwest Wolves and give it a go and see what you can actually do.
All right, interesting that actually. Okay, thanks so very much indeed. Ciara McChrystal from Derry. And as I say, if you hop on our socials, our Facebook and Instagram, we'll share that link if you want to support her.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Brian McCormick Sports and Leisure, Main Street, Letterkenny. Women's clothing in new styles and colours from Adidas and Under Armour. Own the Run range or try the training essentials. Jackets, crew sweats with matching tees, shorts and tights. Match it up with a pair of On trainers. New range just arrived. Brian McCormick Sports and Leisure. Click on bmcsports.ie and get your free delivery.
Looking for a career change? Home Instead have full and part-time positions for caregivers. You'll be trained and supported. You will have ongoing opportunities for career development. Apply now at careers.homeinstead.ie.
Home Instead, to us it's personal.
Did you know Cool Kids Sligo have the biggest range of baby equipment in the Northwest, with 25 years of baby expertise? Cool Kids Sligo take deposits on your baby bundle. Visit us in-store at Cool Kids Sligo or shop online at babyaccessories.ie for free nationwide delivery. Make Cool Kids Sligo your #1 destination for all things baby.
At Manor Motors, their Open Road event is in full swing, showcasing the complete range of Opel cars and commercials. Take advantage of their Super Summer offers, featuring only 4.9% finance and 3 years of servicing on selected models. It's the perfect time to score an amazing deal at Manor Motors, the #1 Opel dealer in the Northwest. Unlock the door to your new car and make this summer one to remember.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon show on Highland Radio.
And it is 11 o'clock. Brendan Devaney's joining us to reflect on the weekend's GE action. Looking forward to an outside broadcast of the DO debate this evening. We have that special focus on the 25th anniversary of the Omagh bombing. That and so much more besides coming up after a news update now from Michaela Clark. Good morning, Michaela.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The families of the Omagh bomb victims say they've spent the last 25 years looking for answers. Tomorrow marks the anniversary of the single worst atrocity of the Troubles, killing 29 people and injuring over 200 more. Buncrana students Sean McLaughlin, James Barker and Oran Doherty, as well as 2 members of a Spanish exchange group who were staying in Inishowen, were among those who died on August the 15th, 1998. Well, a number of events are taking place in Donegal to mark the 25th anniversary of the tragedy. This evening, a massive remembrance will take place at the Oratory in Buncrana at 6 o'clock, while tomorrow a rosary is being held in Knockalla Drive at 3 o'clock. As the dispute over pay and conditions for retained firefighters continues, the Donegal County Council has once again called on Minister Darragh O'Brien to intervene. In an escalation of strike action, all retained fire stations went dark on Saturday, meaning crews will have no internal communications with local authority radio call centres. SIP2 members have also vowed to close one station in each county every week if there is no resolution by this Saturday. An attack on a businessman in Derry following the apprentice boys parade in the city on Saturday has been described as deeply shocking. Police say they received a report of an assault in the Spencer Road area shortly before 6 o'clock. They're appealing to anyone who witnessed the incident to come forward as inquiries continue. Over 1,000 teaching posts are still vacant with just weeks to go before the new school term begins. 646 primary school jobs are advertised on educationpost.ie this morning, along with 458 at second level. The Department of Education is facing calls to improve pay and conditions to attract more people into the profession. The price of a pint goes up again from today. Diageo is increasing the cost of its stout and beer products by 4 cents after a hike of 12 cents in February. Business costs are being cited as the reason for the increase, but the Vintners Federation of Ireland has said the price rise is poorly timed and deeply unfair to both consumers and publicans. And 2,200 homes and businesses in South Donegal are to receive fibre broadband. Ciro has announced that Bundoran and Ballyshannon are the latest towns in the county to benefit from the full fibre broadband rollout. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
Michaela, thank you very much indeed. OK, Brendan Devaney is going to be joining us after these.
There's nothing quite like a McDelivery in your own home, or eating a quarter pounder with cheese in your PJs. There's nothing like tucking into a box set with a Big Mac, or delving into your secret stash of dips, then dunking a McNugget in 3 of your favourite sauces. 'Cause what you do in your home is your business. There's nothing quite like a McDelivery. Order now in the Uber Eats or Just Eat app. At participating restaurants only. Serving times and delivery fees apply. See Uber Eats or Just Eat for full details.
All right, we're joined on the programme now by Brendan Devaney as we look forward to tonight's special DL debate. Brendan, to all intents and purposes, seems to be using a potato as a camera, but we shall, as long as we can hear him, that's all we'll worry about. Brendan, how are you getting on?
I need an upgrade, Greg.
Upgrade?
There wants to sponsor me a new laptop, I'll put it out.
Yeah, you get on to Brogan. Come here. It's another packed one. It's a special show. It's a special show tonight, isn't it? You're broadcasting live from Sister Sarah's Bar and Restaurant in Letterkenny, and you've got a great lineup of guests. It's great to bring the show out on the road, Bren.
Yeah, sure. And I suppose respect to the sponsors too. You know, Sister Sarah's is a brilliant bar restaurant down there. I mean, it's a great setting to be in. And yeah, it's just something different. Greg, taking it out, there's always a different feel to it, you know. And so if anybody wants to come along, come down to Sister Sarah's as ever, you know, you'll get the welcome of Sarah's, and you can watch and hear the show there and see the contributions of the panel. So looking forward to it, yeah.
Yeah, great panel. John Gilday, Brendan Kilcoyne, Barry Meehan and Donegal news reporter Ryan Ferry too. So a great sporting chat amongst people who know what they're talking about. It's live on the radio just after 7, but you can go down to Sister Sarah's and watch it live for radio hacks or anoraks and what have you. That's interesting, and just general sports fans. Obviously, lots of local stuff to talk about. Quick word on the ladies' final yesterday. Dublin just proving too much for Kerry. Sharpshooters they are. They didn't waste many chances earlier on, and Kerry just couldn't claw them back.
Yeah, listen, the more than the men, Greg, the Dublin ladies team in this last decade have just been, you know, they've been at the top of it every year. They're in the round of favourites to win it. And I think last year, you know, we beat them and they came back this year. And the game I seen in Balbafay, you know, they just looked phenomenal. The speed of attack and the skills that they had all around the pitch. You thought that game was going to be close yesterday. Haven't seen the two teams in action, but I get no doubt Dublin were going to win it. They're convincing winners, and they are setting the standards. So, yeah, a phenomenal time for GAA now to represent Dublin. And I suppose everything that goes with it, Greg, you know, they've really homed the best of what a city can bring. You know, it used to be a thing that the GAA, the rural, had it over the town teams and the cities and all that, but that's all been flipped on its head now. It's the other way around now. The places of huge population have got all the benefits and the backup, and it seems that they're excelling. That's why Dublin, ladies and men's, are producing such serious footballers.
Yeah, and I'm sure Donegal and Donegal fans will look on at their performance and put it into context there. Locally, a big weekend for hurling. Setanta, another senior crown. St. Eunan's also, and it's good to see, I presume, as a St. Eunan's man, the seniors of the senior champions of the future, potentially.
Yeah, and Garda won the intermediate. It was a big weekend, Greg, in hurling, and one of the big talking points after it was how long the Ulster campaign is going to be away, and it's 12 weeks away, and doesn't seem right at all. Greg, as I talked to more people about it, I thought, the seasons, they're trying to pull the seasons apart, and there was this lag. Like, I can't believe the amount of time frame. But talking to other people, the hurling championships aren't to where we're at in terms of the other counties and that. So how the likes of our teams going to Ulster for an Ulster campaign now is doesn't seem realistic. I mean, it's 12 weeks. I mean, you're in the middle of it. Look at Setanta, the season they had, they were unbelievable. I mean, unbeaten. They were just a real powerhouse, as they have been of Donegal hurling this last number of years. So, how are they going to get back to championship form in 12 weeks' time? It's a different season, Greg. So that's difficult. But, I mean, they were deserving winners, 11 points in it at the end. That's a bit tough in St. Eunan's because they hung in there. Greg, goals really killed them. Obviously, 4-13 to 14 points. And indeed, 2 goals in the first half, a penalty just at the end of the first half. And St. Eunan's kept clawing their way back. It was 2-8 to 11. And the game was getting feisty, Greg. There was a few tackles get in. And at that point, if Eunan's had got a goal, it might have made for a very interesting second end of the match, the second half of the second half. But as it was, Setanta went up the pitch, and the corner forward, Murray Campbell, had 2 brilliant corner forward goals. And the contest was over. But listen, I suppose St. Eunan's won the junior. They'll be happy about that. They lost the final last year. And Karen Dunham won the intermediate. So we have up on the site there interviews from players and management and the whole lot of going.
What's the solution to that? What's the solution to that gap, that 12-week gap? Because as you're saying, I don't think it couldn't have been put any better. It's effectively a new season. Yeah. So what is the solution to that? Is that you? I presume why are we concluding the hurling so soon then in this county? And what are other counties across Ulster doing? Like, are all county champions facing into a 12-week gap? Pardon my ignorance on this, Bren. But best just answer the question straight out.
Yeah, I was only having the discussions, on Saturday with people about this, about the break, and was it the same for everybody? And then I found out it wasn't. But the situation, there's a couple of things. I suppose we have a small amount of teams to work off. The championship is shorter. Also, the hurler guys will be saying you've got some dual teams, even though Setanta's our only hurling club only in the county. They obviously have some dual players as well, but a lot of other clubs have dual players. They think that our senior championship starts next week, starts on Friday. That's for previewing. They're saying they wanted the hurling kind of finished up before that. Is that an issue? How much of an issue is it? But certainly, I mean, anything over than 3 weeks, really, if you're leading the Indian Ulster campaign, is too much. The fact that it's 12 is, as I say, it's another season. So how much that affects them or not, it's very unfair as well, I think, in terms of trying to do your own year. So what you have with the teams now going into Ulster is there's a certain level of training they have to do to keep ticking over. And that's not really sport, and it's very unfair on them. Like, so I think something has to be done around that. Now, I can't believe how far off the championship is. The Ulster Championship, surely with the club season, the way it's changed, should be pulled closer. So there's probably 2-3 parts to this story, right? But it's certainly not going to do our teams any good.
No, and it can't be beyond us too. It's scheduling, and listen, nothing's impossible. But as you say, it's to make way perhaps for all these players to be available for their football teams. And there's going to be an extensive preview of the senior, intermediate, and junior football championships here in Donegal. I suppose just start with the seniors. Do you see anyone going to break through this year, or any dominance going to be broken? You're going to be talking about it all this evening, but I mean, do you see anything there that's going to sort of shock us this year?
Yeah, it's been a while since there's been a shock, Greg. I think it's 2016 since a team that wasn't in the top 4 beat one of the top four, that a team from outside had a victory. And listen, this is all going back to the nature of coached football and the way systems have it used to be back in the day, championship was on the day and you could always get a shock because a team come out with some mad spirit and went at you and it was man for man and things would happen. Now it's all about the system. It's playing the percentages. So the team that has the better players wins the game by and large. And that doesn't really change because it's so methodical. So listen, but there are teams on the up. I suppose Glenswilly would be the most notable, one Division 2. They've Michael Murphy out there fully tuned into them this season. They are a wee bit of a dark horse, I suppose. Listen, good things have been done with a number of other clubs now. You think, obviously, McCool's, Glenfants and Michael's, sides like that are all, putting the best foot forward. Rua are coming on well, and Greg, but yet you have certainly a hierarchy that's there. Now, that used to be a top four. It's probably not anymore. Greg, you're saying St. Eunan's and Neve Connell probably are a step ahead. Listen, what Kilcar come back with this year, Paddy. Bertie, of course, was injured most of the year. If he comes back fresh and the likes of the McHughes and these boys, McLean's going to have a big push in the championship. Where Gidor are at, they've lost quite a few players. But certainly the league final a few weeks ago, Greg, had our two best teams. It wasn't a great advert for football. Now, there was certain players missing in that, but as it stands, Eunan's are favourites for the championship. Neve Connell very close and behind them, and then the other sides that I mentioned there. Will that change? You would doubt it very much so, Greg, but from a neutral's perspective, it would be interesting. There's a change in the championship now, Greg, which may throw up a couple of earlier bouts of these bigger teams, which might change things a little, allow maybe one of the teams outside the four to maybe get to somewhere like a semi-final.
Is that good, though?
Yeah, so what happens is
that just means potentially that the latter exciting stages of the competition become a little bit more predictable.
Yeah, well, there's no seeding. You see, it used to be seeding, Greg. So the top teams were playing the weakest teams, if you like, and that was why if you topped the group after your 2 home and 2 and away, you got the weakest team you could play. So that's been torn up this year. So what's going to happen is the top 4 teams go automatically into the quarter final. There's a preliminary then where 5th play 12th, 6th play 11th, and so on. So of the 4 teams that go through, then you've 8 teams, and then there's no seeding. So that's an open draw. So that'll be a very interesting draw, because you could have the likes of St. Eunan's playing Neve Connell in the quarter final. So you mightn't have this semi-final final thing that we were getting the last few years. Yeah. And you could have some interesting pairings in there, and who knows in those games if teams can have a cut at other and liven up our championship about Greg.
Just finally one random one. I mean, are you hearing anything anecdotally about the impact of emigration on the sport? Because if you're on social media every day, there's young people leaving. I'm not sure they're involved in the sport or not, but is there any sense on the ground, as I say, Brent, even anecdotally, that we're maybe not at senior level, maybe more intermediate or junior football, that certain players aren't available because they're off to, I don't know, live their life somewhere else?
Yeah, it seems to have certain different clubs, different times. You talk about the top teams. There was 5 St. Eunan's players in America this summer. They're all coming back. There was 1 Neve Connell. Outside of that, just because I'm down in Gidor a bit, they have lost quite a few players to immigration, teaching and different things. It's such an attractive proposition. They head to the Middle East or somewhere and do something to get. So again, what we started up at the start of the conversation, Greg, it seems to be sometimes the more rural areas away from the towns seem to get hit that bit more with immigration. But a lot of the top teams seem to have their same complement. I mean, we talk about Neve Connell. These guys just keep coming back and coming back. It's amazing. They've so many veterans in there. Yeah. You keep thinking maybe 3 or 4 years ago they're going to retire. They keep coming back. So, listen, they'll be formidable. But it seems to be all those top teams. Greg, Gidor certainly have lost a few players over the last number of years. They'd be the one that I would have noticed, yeah.
Right, okay. It's a special show tonight because firstly it's reflecting back on a busy weekend of hurling, but looking forward to the senior, intermediate and junior football championships here in Donegal. A lot of people waiting with bated breath to see how that will all pan out. It's a big panel. John Gilday, Brendan Kilcoyne, Barry Meehan and Donegal news reporter Ryan Ferry. And it is all live, if you can get along, from Sister Sarah's Bar and Restaurant in Letterkenny. So you can see the show in person, see what goes on behind the scenes. Alternatively, of course, you can just listen as you always do after the 7 o'clock news or podcast it then at a later time on highlandradio.com. So you can listen to the DL debate in association with Sarah's Kitchen and Sister Sarah's Letterkenny. And thank you so much for joining us on the programme today. And we'll have a whip around and get you a camera to plug into that laptop.
Nice, Greg.
All right,
Cheers.
take care of yourself. All right, bye-bye. Brendan Devaney there. Okay, our Monday Focus coming up for you after the break.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Join us on August 19th from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. at Uncraving Community Centre, Termon, for a community engagement event. Open to all, discover valuable financial insights, energy-saving tips and expert advice on retrofitting your home. Learn about solar, renewable energy and how to avail of SEAI grants. Uncraving Community Centre, Termon. Mark your calendar and be part of this informative event.
Go full Lidl for a healthy portion of savings. With Irish Board B approved lean beef mince was $4.19, now $3.59. Grab 40% off your 5 a day with Irish courgettes, Irish mushrooms, blueberries, tomatoes and apples. Get the full scoop Gelatelli ice cream tubs were $2.99, now just $2.49. Go on, shop without compromise. Go full Lidl today.
New this week at Home Store and More. All Reed diffusers are all half price. But better hurry, because when all the half price Reed diffusers are gone, they're gone. Also, all pet beds, toys and accessories and all 100% cotton children's duvet sets are still all half price. But when all the half price pet beds, toys and accessories and 100% cotton children's duvet sets are gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More or visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. New store now open in Frascati Centre, Dublin. Home Store and More. A happy home.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
It's 18, just turned 19 minutes past 11 now. And on Monday Focus today, we remember the victims of the Omagh bomb, which happened on the 15th of August, 1998. 29 people died, hundreds were injured. The bombing by dissident Republican group, the Real IRA, was the largest single atrocity of the Troubles. No one's ever been convicted in connection with the attack. And we'll say good morning first to journalist Anton McCabe. Thank you for joining us, Anton. When reflecting on the Omagh bomb, I struggle to put it into words or into context. It is so shocking, so horrendous, and reaped so much devastation and loss. It's really, as I say, I find it hard to even frame it, Anton.
Yes, it was the biggest single atrocity of the Troubles. But also, I think, for people, what really shocked was that it had seemed that the Troubles were over. It was 4 years after the first IRA ceasefire. It was after it was 4 months after the Good Friday Agreement. It seems as if that was over. And then, while Omagh had been touched by the Troubles, it was not one of the towns worst affected. So that again, and also I think the big thing was that people's guard was down, and that it was so absolutely horrible. Like there were, as well as the 29 dead, there were approximately 400 injured. But there was also the majority of the dead were women and girls. They were young people. They were a total cross-section of humanity. And then there were the 3 young lads from Dublin, and then particularly a young woman and a boy from Spain. People who had never even have heard of Omagh, let alone being in Omagh, except for just a sort of pure bad luck on that day.
Mm. Anton, I mean, obviously you were you live close to the scene. You were one of the first journalists on it, and I could introduce you as a journalist who was on the scene, and that's of course 100% accurate. But I mean, obviously there were people physically harmed, an awful loss of life, and many injured. But you must feel the scars of that day as well. You're a victim also of the Omagh bombing, though you escaped physical injury.
Oh yes, like I can still smell, I can still remember that smell of the explosives and of burnt human flesh, and that will never leave me. People in the wider community, are still hurt by that, because you particularly noticed it when police officer John Caldwell was shot earlier this year. A lot of people were suddenly became very nervous. Suddenly all of these memories floated back. And I think too, maybe particularly almost for a lot of people, maybe where with a lot of, like, a while after I went and got myself counselling, but almost there were a lot of people who are in my type of situation. They weren't physically injured. Yes, they saw things or experienced the fallout. But people who felt that then that they had not suffered as much as the others, and they did not, of course, realise that the psychological issues do come back at people. We're also talking now as well about the sheer trauma. For example, we can forget that people had to be taken to the then Tyrone County Hospital. You had, even for medical staff, it was difficult. But we're talking about, portering staff, catering staff, cleaners. All of them witnessed things which they never imagined being in their job description. And there is that terrible trauma there as well. Some people in the emergency services, it took them a number of years, many years, to realise the trauma. And then, of course, too, many of the injured themselves, physical injuries, have maintained pain levels. And as people, quite a lot of people have got older, those pain levels have increased. There's maybe the terrible thing where a trauma centre was set up in Omagh after the bomb, but it had to be closed a number of years ago because of lack of funding. And I mean, there is both obviously locally in the immediate Omagh area, the fallout from the bomb, but tragically, we have traumatic events. Like, yourselves, I mean, the terrible explosion in Creeslough. And that has obviously left a legacy in that community.
And it is, as you're speaking, I'm in my mind, it is hearing the news of the Omagh bomb and how things unfolded. But obviously, being very quickly on the scene in Creeslough and being there over a number of days and getting another understanding of people's loss and grief and how the people are affected by it that weren't even there but had to deal with people that were. I really get a true understanding, and it's been referenced so many times that this felt like it was reminiscent of what the people of Omagh and those caught up in it went through. Before I bring the next guest in, Anton, I'm going to come back to you back and forth if that's okay. How, once you arrived on the scene, was it instantly clear the scale of it. I mean, obviously, it was an awful scene for anyone to come upon or to be at. But was it instantly clear at that time that this was going to be, multiple fatalities, hundreds injured? Was that obvious in the early moments on your arrival?
Probably no, because the horror was so terrible that was overwhelming. You almost shut down under that. What a terrible experience like that.
Yeah, okay. Stay where you are, because we're also joined on the programme by Michael Gallagher, a gentleman who we've spoken to many times over the years, because he's been a tireless campaigner. Michael Gallagher, his 21-year-old son Aidan, killed in the Omagh bombing. Thanks for joining us, Michael. I hope you're okay. How are you keeping? How are you feeling at this time?
Good morning, Greg and Anton. I'm starting to sort of close down, as it were. It's been hugely intense over the last fortnight. I think first of all I must say that Anton described it very, very well, and it was truly, truly horrendous. The bombers planted the bomb and ran away, and they left young policemen and young policewomen, shoppers, mainly teenagers in Omagh, shop workers, to go in just as Ant has described it, and pick up things in your hand that would fall through your hands that nobody should ever have to experience in their life, and that trauma will be with all of those people. You couldn't be human if that didn't impact on you. It was truly shocking, and it's at times like this, that you refocus, as it were. It never goes away. It's what I would say is the thinking time's dangerous, before you go to sleep at night, or when you're waking up in the morning, that you don't get out of bed. These things start to roll over in your head. What could have been, what should have been. Aidan was 21. He's actually longer dead than he was alive. And that's, it's quite difficult to sort of manage that in your head and understand it, because he was our only son. I have two girls, one was older and one was younger, and as a family we felt that we could do anything when the family was there, because he had so much energy, and there's such a big gap in your life, but he is still a part of our family. We talk about him every day. We changed the car last week, and we would say, I wonder what Aidan would think about this. But that's not the case in all families. I know families that have never, ever mentioned their loved one. They couldn't, it's just so painful. We all deal with grief. It's a very personal.
And Michael, obviously, sort of the similarities between what happened, the awful tragedy in Creasla and Omagh, there are there. Obviously, the difference being what happened in Omagh was a despicable, deliberate, indiscriminate, disgusting, inexplicable act. Whilst what happened in Creasla was not. But in talking to people afterwards, and some of the stories come from, it was the randomness of why people were taken where they happened to be at a certain time for a particular reason. And then there's still people dealing with survivors' guilt that were there and just stepped away at a particular time. So there's so many people affected by this. And in Aidan's case, he just happened to be there.
He actually went in that day, but we had a small garage business. I done mechanical work and Aidan done body work, and we had a car. We normally wouldn't work on a Saturday, but I had a car of my own. I was getting ready for the road test, and I went in the morning to the garage, and I came back, I think maybe about 1 o'clock or after 1, and I went into the kitchen, and I said to my wife Patsy, as is Aidan up yet? Because I knew he was out with his friends the night before. And she says, oh, yes, he was up this morning out and paid some of his bills. He's just upstairs changing his clothes because he's going to go downtown with his friends.
Okay, that line dropped. Come back there, sorry, Michael, the line dropped briefly. You were just talking about Aidan meeting his friends. No, it's not your fault. It's unfortunately a slight issue I have here. But continue there, Michael, sorry.
Yeah, and then a few minutes after that, Aidan came down. He just stood in the doorway, and we had a pleasant conversation. It doesn't always be when you have young people that you have a pleasant conversation, but we had a pleasant conversation. He was talking about his jeans, what size, because my wife normally buys them, and I said, don't worry about it, they'll put a tape on you when you go into the shop. And he just turned and walked down the hall, and I'll always remember he looked back for the last time and he said, I won't be long. And that was the last time we seen Aidan. And he picked up Michael Barrett. They both went down. He went in and he bought a pair of boots, working boots, and a pair of jeans. And we didn't know at that time that Aidan wasn't the type of boy that would have said that he was going with a girl, but we knew that the reason he was buying them because he was going out that night to meet this girl. It would, from there it was. I spent hours going back and forward. First of all, I went to the bomb scene, and I got as near as I could, and there was a young soldier there at that time, and he actually looked shell-shocked. And he said, you're better to go to the hospital. I went 3 times, and on the 3rd time I found Michael Barrett in a ward, and he was very badly burnt. And I asked him about Aidan. He said the last thing he remembers is just walking down the street, and then he ended up flying in the air. He didn't know what happened. Aidan, he was then airlifted to the burns unit in the Royal Victoria Hospital in Belfast. And then I was advised to go to the leisure centre. We spent hours at the leisure centre, and eventually about 2 o'clock in the morning I was taken into a room and interviewed by a young policeman and policewoman, and I knew by the nature of the questions they were asking that there wasn't going to be a happy outcome. And then we had to go to the local army camp, was just nearby, and they had set up a temporary mortuary in order to give some privacy, because at that time the media was starting to arrive in the town en masse.
Okay, stay with us, Michael. I also want to bring in Lisa Dillon, who lost her 8-year-old brother, Oran Doherty, from Nakala Drive in Buncrana. Lisa, good morning to you. You were just 18 at the time, and again, Oran just happened to be in Omagh on a school trip. What's your reflections of that day?
Good morning, Greg. So Oran headed off with a cousin of mine and a wee neighbour, Sean McLaughlin, and another neighbour, Ronan McGrory, along with the Spanish students, on a wee trip which we thought was to the folk park, Ulster American Folk Park, and headed off as happy as Larry, most excited wee boys, and little did any of us know it was going to be around the corner from that moment on, but I just remember how happy I was leaving the house that morning, because he actually came in to me, woke me up, because he was a bad traveller, and I was just home from Spain, and I had taken back a big bag of these hard coloured sweets. So he asked me for some of the sweets for travelling. So he took 2 for going and 2 for coming home. And unfortunately never got to take the 2 coming back. So that was my last memory of Oran, was going out the door that morning. And
then your dad had the impossible, it's not impossible, he had to do it. He had the task of identifying him that following morning at 7 a.m. Again, unimaginable. How do you even put words on that? Just pure heartbreak.
Yeah, that must have been, I can't even imagine what he had to go through doing that. But yeah, it might have been just before 7 a.m. But yeah, we'll never forget that phone call. It was Stephen McLaughlin seemed to get the phone call first, and we could just hear the pain coming from their front door. And then next thing, my auntie's phone rang because we all got gathered in her house, and it was my daddy to break the news that Oren had passed away too. And I'll just never forget my mother's reaction. She just collapsed to the ground, and everybody around us, it was just a moment I'll never ever forget.
And
just heartbreaking.
You perhaps heard of the bomb before you heard that news. Are you saying that at that time you would have thought, well, Oren isn't there, so he's okay? I mean, was there uncertainty, or did you know at that point that he was in Omagh?
No, the minute I heard, I was on the main street in Buncrana, and a young fella approached me. He would have been a relative of Ronan's who was injured, and he said, "Did you hear there's a bomb in Omagh? The boys is there." And I thought, oh, well, they're in the folk park, so I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they're not near it. But just get this feeling in your stomach, and I just couldn't get home quick enough. And as I got to Knockalla Drive, I met my mother coming running towards me, just in such a panic. There's a bomb in Omagh. And I was like automatically trying to calm her down. It's okay, I'm sure there's so many people there. The boys won't be in the town and blah, blah, blah. But you just had this feeling, and my mother especially had that feeling. She just knew in the pit of her stomach that this wasn't going to be a good outcome, So yeah, you kind of had that feeling it wasn't going to be good.
And is it still hard to make sense of it? Does it still feel real in that, you say goodbye to someone and that's the last time you see them, that they're taken from you like this, Lisa? Is it difficult to process, and the manner in which Oren lost his life?
Yeah, absolutely. It really is, and I think as time goes by, I think about it more, and I feel it's a lot harder. If I sit and I actually think about it, it just would drive me crazy. It's so unfair that a child or that anybody would have to walk out their door, and to think that maybe that's the last time you see them, and then such horrific circumstances. The evilness behind it all, it's just so unfair.
Yeah.
And you think about it, I think about it all the time.
And we don't sort of want bereavement or loss to consume us, but neither would we want anger to consume us, because that, but how have you dealt with that? Or did you feel anger? Have you anger? How do you deal with that side of your emotions?
There's definitely anger. When you sit and you think about it, you just could get so angry. It's just the simple fact that nobody has ever had to pay a price for that day. And I don't know how them people, if they're living to this day or what, how they live with themselves every day, knowing what they did to all those people, the lives that they've affected forever. I really don't know how they live with themselves. Yeah, you could get very angry, but angry, but you have to you can't let it take control of you. You have to just be strong and try to forget about it. But yeah.
I know, and that's not healthy either, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do to survive. I want to let people know that there'll be a massive remembrance this evening in the Oratory in Buncrana at 6 p.m. And tomorrow, the day of the anniversary, there's a rosary on Knockalla Drive at 3 p.m. where the two boys lived. And both of these are open to the public, so the community can join in to remember and to stand with those affected by this as well. Lisa, thank you so much for your time, and so sorry for your loss and the family's loss, which is felt clearly by your comments today as strongly as it was on the day you learnt of this awful news. Thank you, Lisa.
No bother, Greg. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Take care. And I'll go back to Michael in a moment. Anton, just back to you, if that's okay. Anton McCabe. We've heard from Michael, and we'll hear more from Michael and Lisa and how this has impacted them. And you can multiply that into the hundreds of people who are scarred by 25 years on and can speak of it as if it were, last week. Such a devastating impact on so many, many people.
Yes. I mean, that's it. Like, the trauma of this lasts. I mean, what happened with Lisa, as I said, was just, I'd actually met her family shortly after the time. And it was terrible, like what happened to Michael, which is something that no parent should have to bury a child as Michael had to. particularly in those circumstances. I think it means that we have to cold or calmly say that what was done in Omagh was a crime against humanity. Cannot be called anything else. That quarter of a century on, the trauma is there. And people also, people are dealing with things obviously in different ways. Michael is saying the ways in which his family can talk about it. There's people quarter of a century on, and we can understand how that doing that is still very, very difficult. And I'm sure it is difficult for Michael to do so in the circumstances. I think maybe too that the worst thing was that promises were made to relatives and to the community at the start. We had, they were told that no stone would be left unturned. It's now turned out, unfortunately, a lot of stones weren't disturbed. But even before we go to that, obviously, sometimes it will happen that that police will be unable to gather sufficient evidence to get a prosecution. There were, I think, at the very least, the promises made were deeply irresponsible and have obviously, as time has gone on, has increased the distress of relatives. Because I think obviously, there would have been people for whom seeing convictions would have been central. Nobody, I think, and you could never have expected anybody to forgive those responsible. But then also there are people who maybe, as lives go on, have to deal with it in other ways. But the central thing was when at the very start, great promises were made. Michael will remember those. Then when those promises were not fulfilled, sometimes even it is better to be honest with people and to at least say look, we will do our best. It may be that our best is not good enough. But the difficulty for Michael and all the others is not that the best was not good enough, but it's rather that the best was not tried. And I think that does have a terrible effect on them. And of course, when we're discussing all of this, the central thing we have to remember is that it was the real IRA who planted the bomb. It is they who are ultimately responsible for the situation. It is they who ultimately set in process this whole horrible train of hurt that Michael and Lisa described so well this morning. And I think too, maybe particularly some of the families would have had backgrounds in the security business. And there are people who therefore there would maybe have been a trust there. And also maybe too that people whose families, some of them I would know, who served through the Troubles, would have felt that they were owed gratitude for having put themselves on the line over the years. And instead, the terrible thing is that all the relatives of Omagh were betrayed by the promises made. That has certainly that has deepened the hurt.
Yeah, okay. Anton McCabe, thank you so much for your time this morning. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourself. Thank you, Anton.
Thank you.
We'll finish our conversation with you, Michael, I suppose following on from those words, because, you know, a criminal conviction doesn't bring anyone back. The word closure is perhaps overused and overstated. But how has those broken promises, being misled, watching how the investigation unfolded or didn't, how it's the compounding of the grief, I suppose, and the loss, or maybe, Michael, you might phrase it as you think appropriate.
Well, we had 2 investigations, one on both sides of the border, and I remember the Chief Constable at the time, Sir Ronnie Flanagan, saying that there was in excess of 20 people involved in this operation. And I remember the detectives. I can remember on the Sunday morning, the detectives at that time that were in charge of the investigation, and they came into my house and they assured me that the public, because of the utter devastation and outrage and the shock, as Anton has said, just four months after the Good Friday Agreement, you know, and people say we do phrase it in such a way that it was the worst atrocity of the Troubles, but the reality is it was the first atrocity of peacetime, and that was part of the shock that we felt. But I just always got the feeling that the detectives really wanted to solve this crime, but for whatever reason, their hands were tied behind their back, because all the information that should have been available to them, and we know this for certain. We know that MI5, GCHQ and RUC Special Branch didn't cooperate with the detectives in the way that they should have, and that's why I've campaigned for the public inquiry for over 20 years. And I'm on public record over that period of saying Omagh was a preventable atrocity. And that's this new public inquiry that's been announced. I just feel that we have to get the terms of reference right, and it's not about reapportioning blame, because as Anton has put it, we know exactly who committed this crime because they took responsibility for it. But was there feelings? Could these people have been stopped long before the Omagh bomb? There were 27 attacks in Northern Ireland from January to August, and 13 of those attacks is what the police describe as linked incidents. That means that the police believe that those 13, including Omagh, were all carried out by the same people. They must have some kind of evidence, whether it's fingerprint, DNA, fibre evidence, electronic surveillance. They have. There is a link there, and it just seems that it just died a death on both sides of the border, and that's why we need answers. We need to ask who done what and who did they talk to, and what was the outcome of that conversation. That's not the sort of questions that we have an opportunity to ask over the 25 years, but hopefully with the new inquiry we will. And again, I would appeal to anyone out there, no matter how little knowledge they have, if it just puts a little bit of the piece in the jigsaw, it would be hugely important when the inquiry starts to come forward.
Michael, thank you for your time today. I wish you all the strength that you need to get through the next couple of days and beyond. And over the last 25 years, through your loss and grief, you've been an amazing advocate for your beautiful son, Aidan, and the other victims in their hundreds of this atrocity. And we thank you over the years for all of your time, and still you continue to advocate and campaign, and you're just a remarkable human being, Michael, and we thank you so much for your time today at what must be a difficult time for you and the rest of those affected by this atrocity.
Thank you, Greg.
Take care, Michael. Thank you very much indeed for that.
I remember sunny days and handful showers of rain, staying out until it got dark. And I remember go-karts and bikes down the Cala Drive as we fly our way around the park. I remember gravel and knees, helicopters and trees, and 2 horses in my small back garden. I remember days spent fishing down by the river, clear nights spent staring at stars. And I remember you were there when we felt defeated, though there were some hard times, but we never knew it. I still see the headlines and the picture of our friends in the paper. I'll never know why we got through, but the boys didn't make it. I will never forget that look of regret when your brothers didn't step off that bus. I remember going home with a fear of unknowing, a heartache so cruel and unjust. I remember long black cars and white wooden boxes, silence as they passed us by. I remember candlelit mass, putting my fingers in wax, and the echo of the family's cry.
And that's Paul Caldwell and his song there. He was friends with the young boys from Buncrana. He wrote the song last year, and that was called Headlines. I want to thank Elisa, Anton, and Michael for helping us mark 25 years since that awful tragedy. And you can hear from their voices it's still there. Okay, we have to take a break as we say goodbye after these.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Irish sun doesn't really count, right?
Look, we all deserve a bit of sun.
Skin cancer is the most common cancer in Ireland, so whether you're at home or abroad, protect your skin by following these sun smart steps. Slip into long loose clothes, slop on the sunscreen, slap on a sun hat, seek shade. Yeah, even on the cloudy days. Oh, and slide on the sunglasses.
I do have very funky sunglasses.
And I do love this hat.
Be sun smart from the HSE and Healthy Ireland.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out ShaneConleyCars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonahur Road, Donegal town.
Homeowners, it's time to unlock incredible savings on your energy bills. Efficient Renewables is here to reduce your energy consumption, say goodbye to skyrocketing costs and hello to renewable energy solutions. With no VAT on solar panels and the generous grants for both solar panels and heat pumps, see these innovative systems in action in our state-of-the-art showroom in Newton Cunningham today. Contact Efficient Renewables on 074 97 08320.
Mátá pass hastal agat, ná jarmadea úsáid an Líonra Expressway. Is bailach ionach cosca le a chóide, the gárfáistí a eáil, agus iad siúd a bhfuil grá agat dóibh. Mar sin bon úsáid as the fast hastal iniu. Is féidir leat siachan a cuaran áirithe lína rih ré freisin ag expressway.ie agus bordal tosciúachta aáil €2 in aig an túris. Is ticéidé chun taitneamh a bhaint as níos mó.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate holiday loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Hi, I'm Mark Moriarty and I'm passionate about Irish beef. From a juicy fillet to a perfectly marbled ribeye or some versatile mince, it's as good as it gets. But just knowing it's Irish is not enough. I want to know exactly where it's from. So I love that all M&S beef is fully traceable back to the farm and even the animal. That means high welfare standards from M&S Select Farms with a quality you can trust. Delicious and full of flavour. Because this is not just beef, this is M&S Irish beef.
Planning on renovating your garden this summer? Then look no further than Dealside Garden Furniture. With a full range of sizes in garden sheds, summer houses, playhouses, outdoor canopies, fencing and much more. Dealside Garden Furniture Lifford. Made to measure and one-off designs are our speciality. Find us on social media.
Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. Milford Retail Park. New wood flooring just arrived. 8 mil AC laminate, $9.99 a square yard. 10 mil, $12.50 a square yard. 12 mil, $14.99 a square yard. Beautiful 8 mil AC4 gloss laminate, $16.99 a square yard. All in stock, fitters available. Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. 083 091 0707.
Most people say that Donegal is the coolest place on the planet, but up here we know that sometimes it can be the coldest. Charles Brunner & Sons Ballybuffet is the one-stop shop for all your heating needs. We have a huge range of multi-fuel and wood pellet stoves and ranges, spare parts for all major stove and range brands, plumbing and bathroom ware, all at exceptional prices. So visit our showrooms where our friendly and experienced team will be ready to help you. Charles Brunner & Sons Ballybuffet and the stovestore.ie, where you can always do a good deal better.
Okay, very close to saying goodbye for this Monday morning. Just to remind you, Kevin Fury is around the Northwest after 12. He is in the hot seat for John Breslin. Takes 3 or 4 people to replace John. He must be incredibly important. But anyway, Kevin Fury gets his twist just after 12. So stay tuned for that, for the usual mix of fun and conversation and great music. A caller says, my God, the similarities to the stories of these people are so close between Creasla and Omagh. God love these people. They shouldn't have to go through this. No, they really shouldn't. Heartbreaking time for all the families who lost loved ones in that inhumane bombing. Would love to know the mindset of whoever authorised it, and why didn't our government do enough to try and find any of them? Thank you, Greg, for your empathy and compassion in Creasla. I also met you doing your professional job, which you carried out with gentleness, care and tremendous compassion. Thank you. Thank you for that. It was very important at that time that it wasn't reporting on something, but actually just getting out information that was important to the community. You know, it wasn't a news story for me. It was a service that needed to be done. Okay, that's where we have to leave it on the programme. Thanks so much for listening. We're back with you tomorrow morning at 9. Thanks to Caroline and Niamh, of course. As I say, have a great Monday. Chat to you soon.
The 9 till noon show with Letter